Hello, Leapers! Welcome to the Quantum Leap Way After Show. I'm Albie, and today with me, as always, is Hayden. And we have from the Cobra Kai Kompanion, an old friend of mine. You might know him from his many podcasts, especially Back to the Future, the animated series, the podcast that I did with him. Still doing, I think. Peter Veunnasack. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing great. I believe it's the number one animated series podcast.
Number one Back to the Future animated series podcast ever.
And what I mean by that is the only one.
The only one. I figured by now, because we only do, an episode every year or so? I figured by now somebody would step in
Always the
and
Christmas
fill
episode,
in for us,
it?
but no. Yeah. I think the last one we did was the Christmas episode, actually. Was it?
I think you're right. I think
That
so.
might be, yeah, it might have been.
Which
2
reminds
years
me,
ago.
we have to get the Christmas episode for this year done for Quantum Leap podcast. I think we're up to like the 7th level of Inception now or something like that.
Yeah, the Fates Wide Wheels guys are going to do that, I think, with Matt Dale, so it'll be
Nice.
good. So, Peter, have you been following the new Quantum Leap at all?
I have. Yes. Albie, we've known each other for over 8 years now. You've been doing Quantum Leap for the QLP for over 8 years. That's how we found each other. Before I started my very first podcast, the idea was to start a Quantum Leap podcast. And I found yours, and you already had a few episodes in. And I even wrote in, some feedback. And at that point, I was like, this is just so well produced. Like, well, why should I even start one? Like, I'll just listen to them. And then I started my movie podcast, and the rest is history.
And after all that time, we've got 1 million copycats now.
Yeah, you started a trend,
Yeah, I think so. There's
the original and the best.
You guys are like the perfect crew, for covering the show. Like, I love the show. I can't sit here and go toe to toe and blurt out like titles, right? Like, before we started recording, I was trying to remember one title. Hayden, you helped me out there, but Temptation Eyes, I was like, so something eyes, like something like that. But like, I know the episodes like the back of my hand. I remember most of the characters' names. So there's some things I may not be able to pick up on, but I feel there's other things that I can, so I'm a good balance, a good companion, if you will, to have watch a Quantum Leap episode. But my oldest son, who's now 22, I got him onto Quantum Leap at a few years back as well. I don't know if we ever finished the series together,
Peter,
he was quite a fan.
Can I just say, yes. I'd like to know, how does a 22-year-old have a 22-year-old son?
You're so sweet. I'm actually the same age as John Chaffin, who everyone will be hearing from later on today. We're the same age.
Yeah.
So
really,
yeah.
You do not. Yeah, you haven't aged since I've known you. So, but your kids have. It's weird.
I will Venmo you the money later.
Okay. So we're here talking today about somebody up there likes Ben, or
also
the right
known
hand of God?
as
left hand of God.
Well, we should call it Ben's right hand,
left...
because ultimately that's what saved the day, wasn't it?
The left hand of Danny, right?
Yeah, Danny Hill. The boxing episode, part 2. You can believe it. They did another boxing episode. I was like, oh no, are they just going to redo that? But it's totally different. It just happens to have some boxing in it. So we'll start off, Peter, with your first impressions of somebody up there likes Ben.
Yeah, I will actually just say what I tweeted out after watching this episode. Now, this is a Quantum Leap episode. It's like there's no shade on the first 2 episodes. I kind of expected the pilot to be very heavily focused on the new cast, kind of maybe not telling us new rules, because I feel like they're still kind of slowly working into those new rules. There's a few things that I still want, because I love what Christopher and the crew say on the podcast proper. They call this like a season 6. It's a continuation. And for me, I cover Cobra Kai Kompanion. That's a continuation of the Karate Kid film. They don't make changes. It's everything is the same. So I'm not expecting everything to be the same with this version of Quantum Leap, but there's some things that I wish that was very close to. Like, I'm still waiting for the sound effects of the imaging chamber door open. So like I need that. The hand link, I can accept a different looking hand link, but it can't look like a version 10.0. You know what I mean? Like I need a handling 3.0. You know, that's still colorful. Like because if Ben Song is this second leaper right after Sam Beckett, why does the handling look so different? You know, I feel like some of these answers we may get in the the following episodes. If everyone kind of remembers that first season of Quantum Leap, it's not my favorite season, and I feel like season 1 of the OG Quantum Leap has the fewest episodes I would actually revisit. Because they're still setting up that world. So I have my criticisms, but I'm in it for the ride for sure. I love these characters. I'm not familiar with any of the other cast members other than Ernie Hudson, of course, and Mason Alexander Park. They're so amazing. I'm not familiar with them. Like I know they have done like a few different shows, like Sandman and all these things. I've heard of those shows. I've just never watched them. But if you go onto their Instagram account, like they sing and just they look amazing in everything. It's you got to check their Instagram account out. But just looking through everyone in his Instagram account, they all look like very interesting and beautiful human beings. The show is just full of beautiful people. But yeah, I can't wait to see what else they have in store, especially like, for those that like to read up on things. We have heard how they've reworked episode 6 and the pilot and kind of swapped things or what have you. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens in episode 6 now, just because it's not even 2 or 3. It's like halfway through or something. I don't know how many episodes they're planning for season 1 yet.
12 so far. And if they get picked up for a back 9, I believe is what was said. So we're hoping
in the episode
for a full season.
Did you pick up on that? So how many leaps until we got to get him home? Oh, I'd say at least 10. Probably more like 20.
When they
decide how many episodes they're going to have.
Yeah, when they said that line, I was like, that's exactly the numbers of episodes. So this way they can end the story if they get canceled at the end of one season or a half season, either way. So I see an ending there. What do you think that ending is? Because originally it had to be, I'm thinking going back to the bar that Bruce McGill runs or something to find Sam or something like that. But now they got to come up with something else if they're not going to get Scott.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't think that it's the bar, considering it's a figment of Sam's imagination. But then again, Sam can leap into his own imagination, so maybe other people can too. I did really like the explanation that they came up with, though, about the slingshotting and trying to use the gravity to help fling them further along, either further into the past, or maybe you need to be pulled back quite a lot to be able to be flung somewhere in the far future. And as we know, it was originally planned that season 6 would have its first episode somewhere in the far future, so maybe that is the intention. Sam might have actually leapt into the far future, and the mechanics of leaping are most likely much, much more different now for him than they would have been as far as the project would know. As we know, he's still got to be leaping as himself, and the project completely lost contact with him. So maybe the way that it's actually working for Sam now is he leaps into the future, finds out something that's gone wrong, and then leaps a little bit further back to prevent it. A little bit like Back to the Future 2, where Doc had gone further into the future, found out what the problem was, and then brought Marty to 2015 to fix up the thing that he'd found out. That's how I'm visualizing the way that Sam does it now, because he doesn't have a holographic guide unless he gets some sort of angel like Angelita or Stopper to help him, even though I don't think Stopper could, because he's also something that only exists in Sam's or Al's head. But maybe Angelita. But that's my theory, that he's leaping into the far future, just like Sam might be. I really don't think we're going to end up seeing an ending where Ben is going to bring Sam home, because if Sam wanted to come home by now, he would have. And yeah, I mean, 30 years have passed. I think it's pretty clear he's not coming back. He's got his pack of smokes. He's not going to come back to babysit.
My newest theory is that the Ben that leaped into the past was a Ben from the future that leaped into himself to leap into the past to go to the future to save Addison, if that makes sense.
Maybe.
Like in the future, he loses Addison, so he decided to somehow do all this stuff to save her or something.
Okay,
Kinda
so hang
like
on.
Doctor Strange. Okay.
But I'm trying to keep track of the timelines. So you're saying there was a timeline where Addison leapt,
Addison
but
was a
somewhere
leaper.
along the
Yep.
way she ended up killed. And as we've established
And
in the first episode, if you die during a leap, you
or
die in
lost.
real life. So
Killed or
you
lost.
think Ben must have leapt a bit later into himself in the past, so that the
past
past
to
Ben
leap,
will
so she
leap
wouldn't
instead.
leap. And then
Okay.
to meet her at wherever that happens to make sure it doesn't happen. I don't know.
Well, look,
they know?
what
Actually,
as any.
I don't hate that because I think it is interesting that they introduce Addison's supposed to be the original leaper. I was just like, oh, okay, well, because Christopher had mentioned, we had heard, all these thoughts about like Sammy Joe, if there was a reboot, to kind of maybe not address that, but maybe a little Easter egg for like the OG fans that kind of knew that, the whole idea of possibly the return of Sammy Joe being the lead and whatnot. I thought maybe that was kind of a wink, like, hey, we wanted to go this direction, but decided against for our reasons. But I thought it was an interesting dynamic in that very first episode because that makes sense why it seemed like Addison wasn't really, maybe not quite prepared, but also like Ziggy seems to be kind of maybe not malfunctioning, but she's not working the way we are familiar with. And so everyone's kind of having to learn on the fly. But what we are also learning is that apparently Ben is very capable and very quick on his feet, being the glue guy back at home and all of these things. So I just thought it was an interesting way to write these different characters. But your theory, actually, it makes some sense, that kind of answers some of those questions. I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting for things to reveal, I'm not a paid writer and I don't want that difficult task, but I'm just sitting here and thinking, that doesn't sound too bad.
Meanwhile, Deborah's listening intently, taking notes, coming up with the story arc for the rest of the season.
Okay, so well, let's talk about the boxing episode. It turned. My first thought was, oh no, a boxing episode, because I'm not a sports guy. But this episode wasn't about boxing at all, really. So it was just like the background of it. It was more about post-traumatic stress syndrome, and it was more focused on the character of, was it Daryl?
Daryl. Yeah, Daryl Hill. Yep.
And John Chaffin, he was the star of this episode. I mean, like, of course, Caitlin and Ray were amazing in this episode because they had more time, I think, in this episode to be who they're supposed to be. But just John knocked my socks off. I think he can do anything. This man just can act. I mean, I felt everything that I was supposed to. So I think he's the big star of this episode, and I was just very impressed. And it's a difficult subject, and it goes back to, the Vietnam War again, which is something that's in Magic's past. So hopefully that ties together at some point. But this episode, like you said, Peter, this is Quantum Leap. Like, I love the first one because it's Quantum Leap, but it was too much in too little time. The second one was pretty good. I liked the pacing. There was more leaping, but this one, I was like, they got it. And I was so surprised that in the third episode of this season, they got it. This is Quantum Leap. I think they're back. The ring rust has been knocked off in this boxing episode.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. The reason I say like this is Quantum Leap is because what I loved about that original show is the stories and the human connection. I echo everything you said about John Chaffin. There's a reason I'm wearing a Back to the Future shirt because he mentions Back to the Future, so that's a little shout out to him. He just not only is he an incredible actor, and this is all I know him from, I think his character was written so well. I feel I don't have the information up with me. My apologies, but the writer, I feel like he did his research, and just the subtleties of some of Daryl's lines. There's a moment where they're at the weigh-in, and all the flashes from all the photography. Daryl makes a comment that he said something like he didn't like the flashes, and that kind of adds to his PTSD. Like you can imagine all the gunfire back in Vietnam and stuff like that, and that's kind of triggering him. So I like all of that, and this is the first time I'm on the show, so I don't think many of the your viewers know who I am, but I served 10 years in the U.S. Army myself, and so I was also in Afghanistan. It'd be kind of funny if Caitlin and I were there at the same time. So I'm going to need to find out when she was there.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so thank you for having me on this particular episode, because it was hitting home, and just the I have a little brother, so I really felt that scene between the Hill brothers in the prison, but there was just a lot of moments that I felt that I was able to connect to, so that just harkens to the great writing of the show and the great acting from the guest stars, because they're only in one episode. And so like I feel, and I haven't really heard anybody say this in their interviews with the podcast proper, but it's got to be challenging to come in and have to kind of build a world around your character just for one episode. Like you don't get a chance to come back and like add more layers to it. This is your one shot, just one episode. So everyone did well. Everyone did amazing in this episode. There's another thing that Daryl does, and I don't know if this was on paper, if it was a direction or a personal decision from John himself, but there's a moment where Daryl and he's talking to Danny, and I think is right before they walk inside, the casino or whatever it was. He has this talk, and then he puts his forehead against Danny, and like that stuck out to me. I was like, that's somebody like familial that would do that to you, maybe even very close friends, but that just shows like the connection between the two characters too. And I love that.
That scene you were talking about in the prison cell, my first thought in the jail was that's the same jail cell that's been in every Quantum Leap episode in the original series. I think, I don't know if they pulled it out of mothballs or just a standing set at Universal Studios or something, but I was thinking,
that's probably what it is.
Maybe, but it looked exactly the same, and it seemed like the director of photography almost shot it the same as played against Seymour or something like that. But that scene, I watched the episode 4 times, and every time it pulled me in, and the world fell away, and I was there, and I was feeling that scene with them. So, as a veteran, Peter, did the PTSD? Do you have friends and colleagues from back then that did suffer from that, and did they handle it in a good way, you think?
To answer the first part, yes, I do have friends that suffer from it, unfortunately. The very first one that I noticed, any kind of signs, I guess you can call them, is that one of my buddies who once he came back a little bit after I did. I invited him out to a night into town, to go out dancing, and the crowd of people, really made him uncomfortable, and he ended up leaving prematurely, like really early. He said just the music was too loud, it was just too many people, and he was a little paranoid. So I was just like, oh, like I this is the stuff that they tell us about, to kind of look for these things in other soldiers. So unfortunately, we have lost touch, so I don't know how he's doing. Now that I think about it, it's probably worth trying to locate him to see how he's doing. But I do not know anybody personally that suffers it in a severe way. Just kind of the basic signs that people kind of are aware of to kind of look out for. Just the subtle, unusual characteristics, things like that.
I'm in a way I was surprised that the Quantum Leap already started with the heavy issues and the teaching lessons, but then again, I was like, no, it's Quantum Leap. That's what they do. They teach people things, and it was a heavy subject, but the rest of the episode was handled in such a fun way that it balanced out so good. Because you had those moments where you almost want to cry along with the pain that John's character is going through, but also that excitement and the training montage and all the hologram stuff, and then at the end when you actually see his brother promise that he's going to get help, and he is, and just like all that weight and is off his shoulders, and he can actually start to live again. It almost seems like in that ending. So I don't know. I think it was just well written all the way around.
Yeah, can we also appreciate Raymond Lee in that same scene where we find out early in the episode that he remembers that he's the only child, right? So Raymond has to act as Ben, who has to act as somebody who has a brother. And how emotional was that? And I bought into that. I was like, Raymond, where is this coming from? Or Ben, rather. Ben, like, you don't have a brother and you're still able to talk to him like that. Like I said, this episode has that human interaction / connections that we all love from the original show. And the stuff with Addison, oh my God, we will get there. Just that the one line, like I don't know if this could become a segment, is there a one line that sticks out, kind of thing. In this episode, it's like, well, I'm forgetting it, so it's not verbatim. He asked, like, will you leap with me, or something like that. I was just like, oh my God, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I got the chills there. It was almost like a kid asking someone, like, will you take care of me or something, in a way. But it's almost Halloween. What about the Casper? Can I keep you? It's a little bit like that, kind of cute.
A little less creepy.
Yeah, I mean, Raymond Lee is amazing. I mean, because they don't have a lot of time, and they're fitting so much in, especially with stuff back at the project. But again, that scene in the jail cell, Raymond Lee and John together. I mean, John talks about in his interview. We'll play that in a little bit. They had a little bit of an acting relationship before that, so I'm wondering if that played into it, or both of them are just so darn good that they know their craft so well that even though we're watching Quantum Leap, we know we're just sucked right in with that. But so good, so good. I think that they cast the main cast well, and the guest stars so far so well.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky to have this cast.
I think so too. Yeah. And Albie, what you were saying before about balance, this episode is a good case of art imitating life, because I thought this was probably the best balanced episode that we've had so far as well. A lot of people who I've been in contact with and in all of the podcasts I've been listening to, etc., have been, I suppose, complaining quite a bit about how jarring it has been at times watching the shift between the leap and the stuff happening at the project. I thought this was a far better balance of it, even though it's probably a very comparable amount of time. I think part of it is the fact that what was happening at the project was mirroring what was happening on the leap quite well. And ultimately, the main theme of the episode is balance, making sure that you keep taking care of yourself, because you can't help anyone else if you can't help yourself. I thought that really came through very, very well. The scene with Addison essentially passing out in the imaging chamber. Well, we learn now that it's not just an avatar of Addison, because she really did work herself out in that training montage that they were doing, and she did faint because of it. So yeah, we know it's not just an avatar with her sitting down, with a headset on. She's actually in the imaging chamber doing all of that.
I think it still could be an avatar of what she's doing.
Well, it's a projection of what she's currently doing, but it's not like she's sitting down talking like we are, with it being projected what she's thinking.
That's true.
No, she's actually.
She doesn't have a mouse and a keyboard.
Yeah.
It's
okay,
like following her.
Yeah.
Do I have to get in between you two? No,
Please do.
Hayden. No, Hayden, you were absolutely right. I think the theme, of this particular episode is balance, and not only that, it's self-care, Daryl, it really has to really focus in on his mental health, and Addison, her mental state, her mental health, and physically, because everybody is trying so hard to bring Ben back. But she's the one who has to be there and to make sure that he stays out of trouble, and kind of be that voice of reason if she thinks that he steps out of line, which he doesn't really do. Like every decision he's made seems to mostly be the correct one. So.
Yeah, he's a natural. He must have watched the original series, I think, because he can handle any situation.
I'm hoping they have like notes, from all the previous leaps that he studied. Like, oh, Sam did this because
he's got a photographic memory. So
right, exactly. And Deborah, are you listening? So, yeah, it's just that makes sense, right? Like
somewhere.
Exactly. Like it has to be like Ziggy was a speaking AI, and there's got to be logs of these leaps, decisions that Sam made that alter, what they were hoping the trajectory would be and what the original timeline was, all these little different things. So, there's got to be some studies on it. You have to wonder, like I wonder if we'll get, I know we'll get fanfic that will kind of fill in these gaps in between the original series and the current series. But I'm just trying to think like all the different researches and stuff like that. Again, like how do we get from Al's handling to what we see Addison holding? Like there's just so many changes in between. Nobody at one point just hired like a new tech person and said this is the new design just because like what kind of frustrates me, and this is like something I kind of like had an issue with the original series as well. Like, what is Al actually reading? Is it like blinks? What are you actually reading to get your data? Addison, like, it's a Albie, was it you that called it an echo?
I called it an echo dot, but I think what stuck was Christopher's hockey puck. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but when she's like sitting there reading all this information, I go, "What are you looking at?" Like it's
my theory is
blue light.
Yeah. Well, Peter, my theory about that is we know that it projects this holographic image that she can show Ben when need be. My theory is that it's always projecting something. She just chooses when she wants Ben to see it.
Yeah, that was my feeling too.
That's fair.
And that added to my headcanon of the original series. So that's what Al was looking at when he was seeing things that was just blinky lights. He was seeing a hologram on his end that Sam wasn't seeing. So, and
we also know that Ziggy,
sense.
At least in the original series, could communicate with the hologram by speaking, and the Leaper wouldn't know that. So there's a good chance that something like that could be happening as well. Like we know that Ian or Jen can talk to Addison with a microphone. So there's likely some of that going on too. She might just be getting instructions from them verbally.
That reminds me of when Ben walks into the casino and Addison stays outside. She kind of looks over her shoulder in that shot. And I'm wondering if somebody's talking to her in the chamber or they're talking to her, or why is she looking over her shoulder? Because that was just strange to me and out of place.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for an Ian, center me on Ben.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's got to.
Yeah,
but look, what you were saying, Peter, about the imaging chamber door, I don't think we're going to get it because we've kind of seen how she appears. It's this kind of wipe that opens up. So I think that's going to be the equivalent of the imaging chamber door now. This wipe where
I think we'll see it.
Not even the look, but just the sound, because like that was kind of like the shortcut, right, to letting us know that Al had just entered. Like we can hear that off screen. Like it's fine. Like that adds to like the magic of Quantum Leap as well, right? Is that sound. But when we see like Addison already like in the frame just from panning, it kind of takes it away, and it's almost like, well, I don't believe you because you didn't really like. She was already just standing there. I want that just that little magic. It sounds like they have a pretty decent budget to do the things that they do, and everything looks amazing. Just these tiny little effects, and you know what? We may get them. I'm going to be patient,
Peter. I think we'll get them soon, but we might not get them with Addison. We did see somebody walking towards a geodesic dome that might be some kind of chamber.
Yeah.
So maybe an
in that
imaging
theme.
type chamber.
And speaking of echo chambers,
that new version of the theme.
And speaking of echo chambers, maybe it's a good time for us to go to one of our interviews.
Our first interview is with the amazing John Chaffin. He is, I think that, like I said, the star of this episode. Amazing. I mean, we talk about like people that were in the original series of Quantum Leap, and you have like Terry Hatcher and Jennifer Aniston, and I think this is this show's version of this. I think John is going to go far. You're going to see him accepting awards one day. He should just get any role he applies for. This guy is the tops. And we were lucky enough to get to talk to him. Christopher sat down with him and talked to him, and we'll go to that interview now.
Welcome, Leapers. This is Chris, and I am thrilled to welcome our special guest, John Chaffin. John, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the Quantum Leap podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of reading up. We have so many new things now that the new series is out, a whole bunch of new guest stars, a whole bunch of everything. And it's so great to be reading up on people who are now, new Quantum Leap stars. I have looked and I've seen, like, you have done everything in your background. You've been both behind the camera, on camera, and now you're guest starring on the new Quantum Leap. Can you tell us a little bit just about yourself and, how you got here?
Yeah, so originally I'm from Stone Mountain, Georgia, east side of Atlanta. And I started my career actually behind the scenes, like you were saying. Started in production as production assistant, camera camera assistant, and eventually camera op. And I was like, man, I always wanted to act, but I never really knew how to go about doing it. Nobody in my family was an actor. So that was my foray into the business. I kind of worked, and I have a godmother who was in the business, and she kind of helped get me in on the production side. And then when I got a chance to see how things work, how people move on set, then I was like, you know what, I want to go for it. You know what I'm saying? I want to do it. So, but I never lost my love for production. I still, love to get behind the camera when I can. I still write. I'm dabbling in some directing now with theater. So I started my career in Atlanta and did some cool projects there. And I was like, you know what, I don't want to have that what if, what if I'd have went to LA and, what could have happened? So I took the lead, me and my now wife, she was my girlfriend then, we moved in August of 2012. So we've been in LA for 10 years now, doing well, you know what I'm saying? I've been blessed to work on some really, really cool projects and with some great actors and writers, producers, directors. So, and we're just building, we're just trying to continue to, build off of the last, job or the last project, and I also do theater out here as well. I've done work over with CTG over at Kirk Douglas Theater and done some workshops, reading series and things like that. And so, and in Tia's Theater in Glendale. So, I just been like all over the city, just like trying to get it going, like so many other hopefuls who came out here. And I've just been blessed to, have some luck on my side along the way.
Well, how did you hear about the part on Quantum Leap, and tell us about the process of getting cast as Daryl?
Yeah, so it's like any other normal process. It came through my manager's the audition, and I read it, and I was like, this is nice. You know what I'm saying? This is a nice part, and I was like, okay. I didn't watch the original Quantum Leap because I'm 39, so when it came out in the late 80s, 90s, I wasn't into those type of shows at that period in my life. So I had to go back and watch it and get an idea of the show, and then I was like, well, this is a reboot, so it's not going to be that tone. It's probably going to be they're going to bring it up to date 2022. But I read the part. And I immediately connected with Daryl. He's a war veteran, Vietnam. he was a professional boxer whose career was taken away from him because he was drafted into Vietnam. And then he came back home and he's dealing with the effects of war, which PTSD is something that's very real. And, my only hope is that, any veterans or anybody that's dealing with PTSD after watching this episode, they see a little bit of themselves, because it is dealing with those type of topics. And so those things I wanted to illuminate. And then, so I did my thing and sent it off into the universe, and and probably about a week later, my manager was like, "Yeah, you got the offer," and I was like, "Oh." And then when I got the script, I realized I was like, "Oh, this this is a bigger role than what I thought." I thought it was going to be a couple, but the whole episode is about. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's going to be fun." And then I got to see what else they had me do. And I was like, okay, we got some work. We're gonna have to really go there. But it was a lot of fun, and hats off to Andrew Lindo, who wrote the episode. Amazing, amazing guy, amazing writer, and he's a co-exec on the show. And Marcus Stokes, who directed that episode, was just phenomenal. Everybody, cast, crew, it was really good, and it felt like a safe place to play. So that's what I'm really grateful for. And hopefully it'll come off on screen, you'll see the fun that we had.
Well, one thing that does come off is that because since the new show is really very new, you're only in episode 3, but a lot of the themes that they touch on in this episode, number one, the boxing. I don't know if you know this because you're kind of new to the show, but the 3rd episode of the original series was a boxing episode. And you're in the 3rd episode of the new series, which is a boxing episode. A lot of the original series hinged around the theme of Vietnam and the lingering effects of Vietnam. And also, this is maybe, so far in the new series, the most distinctive historical era that we've seen, because the first episode was in mid-80s, but it could have been anywhere. Second episode was in space. So right now we're actually getting maybe our first period piece of the new series. So, I mean, look, historical settings, the most distinct I can think of, Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby.
The 70s. I mean,
right. That's like, who doesn't want to go to Vegas? I was going to say, who doesn't want to go to Vegas, especially in the 70s? I was like, oh my gosh. So when we got a chance to step into that time period, it was like, oh man, this is like why I became an actor, getting to play in these different worlds and these decades. I wasn't born in the 70s, so I never, but I got my parents and I saw their pictures and their stories, and I was like, man, that would be cool. So it was a lot of fun to step back in time, and I think the episode is really going to resonate with people because it's like you said, this is the first episode in the new iteration where we really get a sense of the era that we're in, and it's going to be the clothes, the look, the the style of the show, the everything is just going to feel like 1977's Las Vegas.
When you were, getting onto the set and sort of like getting into the groove of the production, I mean, what was it like? What kinds of things did they have you like watch for? Did you have like certain idioms that you had to avoid, or certain? I know you have a script, but it's just, to me, it seems like more of a distinct challenge to go back and actually be authentic in a specific period of time, especially when you're not from that period of time. So, I mean, you had some fabulous outfits, but what else was it like to sort of immerse yourself in the set and to sort of transport yourself back into that mindset of the 70s?
Well, the internet is both the greatest invention and the worst. It's that double-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the great, but it can be terrible. But thankfully, because of the internet, we have a bevy of research at our fingertips. So a lot of it is just researching the era. You know what I'm saying? The times. I had a little bit of time before we started shooting. And when I got the initial audition, I had already knew that he was a Vietnam veteran, because that was a part of the breakdown. So I had immediately went into research mode. So by the time I got to set, I had already had all of this information inside of me that I had already researched about the era. And thankfully, and like I said, the writing was great. So it wasn't a issue with, little idiosms or, sayings that, more modern than it was. So it felt like it was very natural. And I have an old soul, you know what I'm saying? My parents, they was, you know, everything growing up was, vinyl and, my dad still probably has his 8-track player. If I swear for everything. So I grew up in, that era of music, you know what I'm saying? The OJs and the Jacksons and, the Shy Lights and, the Whispers and, so all that music was already in me. So I was ready to jump in the 70s because that has to be like the funnest era. And if there is one that I say I wish I could have lived in, it was the 70s.
So that must have been kind of a little thrill to go back.
Oh yeah,
to get to relive your fantasy, right?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can, put on the shoes of someone else and walk in them and see the world and the way that they see the world, is always a fun adventure because you never know what's going to happen, and that's a part of the thing. It's all about the journey and not the destination. So, and then I got to shoot on Universal. I was looking at the big clock tower from Back to the Future. And I was like, oh man, that took me back to my childhood. So, you bring all of that energy and all of those memories with you to each and every, opportunity, role that you play. So, and it just so happened that this, one fit like a glove,
Yeah, that's terrific. It's funny. I think you evoke. We're all time travel geeks here on this podcast, so we talk about Back to the Future quite a bit. So we're a little jealous that you got to see the clock tower in Hill Valley.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I remember being a kid, like now I'm here working like right here in front of it. It's just like, wow, it's mind blowing sometimes.
I bet. Well, I know that Quantum Leap's not the only thing that you've been doing that's very period specific. I see that you have a recurring role in the new Perry Mason remake that's on HBO, and I believe that one's set in the 30s, right? And that's like a gritty drama. They really remade that. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was amazing. Like I said, I feel like one of the luckiest guys right now. I keep getting to jump back in time and relive these eras and tell the stories of these people in this specific time period. But it was amazing. I mean, being able to be on that set, working with that caliber of just talent from top to bottom, was a blessing and a joy. I enjoyed every time I got to get up and play. And then the 30s, you know what I'm saying? Being able to go back in time and walk in those shoes and wear those outfits. And I was reading the paper and a loaf of bread was 25 cents and gas was like a nickel and 70. I was like, oh my God, I was like, what is going on? I wish we could get those prices back. But, so it was really, really a joy. Anytime you get to go back and play in those different eras, and that won't come out. I think Perry Mason. Don't even give me the line when the new season 2 is gonna come out. But yeah, I'll be in there, and I'll look a lot different than I look right now. So you might be like, "Is that John?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, that's me. That's me." I don't want to give it away, but yeah, I'm gonna look a lot different than how I'm looking right now.
Now I'm really looking forward to it because I really liked the first season of that series. So
yeah,
knowing that you're in it's going to give me something extra to look for. So yeah, that's terrific. And I see that another series that you're featured in just premiered in the last week or so. I think it was just this week on Stars. It was BMF.
Oh yeah, they're actually going into their second season. So I was in the first season. Yeah. That was another great one. Playing the older Big Meech, Demetrius Flannery, who is real life person. His real life son is actually playing him on the show. So that's really, really a cool project. And I got to voice it. So I got to, flex that voiceover muscle and and get my James Earl Jones on. And I don't think I got quite a while to go before I can get to that level. That's Mr. CNN and Darth Vader. I'm not comparing myself to James Earl Jones. Please do not. No. If I could have 1/8 of that, I would be, immensely happy. But yeah, that was a lot of fun being able to work on that project.
Yeah, I mean that's becoming I think sort of like a new coveted position in a lot of series, because there's the voiceover. I think ever since the Wonder Years, the voiceover has been sort of a tool that's been used very effectively. Everybody hates Chris, of course, Chris Rock. I mean, who wouldn't love that? But I think How I Met Your Mother. So it's kind of a unique role to fill. It must be neat to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's because the voice is another character. You know what I'm saying, in the show. Mm-hmm. Even though you're bringing the audience into the main person's, head, their thoughts, there's still another character on the show. So it's always fun to be able to bring those to life. And either way, with my voice or face and whole body.
So, I mean, I think that working on Quantum Leap, if we can get back to Quantum, maybe presents some unique challenges for actors, because when you're, working very closely with Raymond, as you did in this episode, working very closely with Caitlin, even though you can't talk to her in this episode. I mean, Raymond is your brother.
Yeah.
But it's not like, but he's Raymond as well. So what's it like on set to find that dynamic, to say this person is my family, yet it's an imposter? I know that's a weird question, but it's something I've always found fascinating about the process that you guys have to go through.
Yeah. I think I get what you're saying. It's not the imposter, but it's like the audience sees Raymond, but I see my brother. The cool thing about Raymond is me and him got to work together prior to this. We did a stage reading over at the Kirk Douglas Theater in Culver City back in 2019, and we, he was really cool. We, hit it off there. So when I got this, he was like, "Yo, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you go to play Daryl." And I was like, "Yeah, we get to go on there and play." So we already had a chemistry, and we already had a rapport. So that part was it was easy. It was like slicing butter with a hot knife, and then getting on the set and actually playing, it's just being honest. Really, it's seeing my brother. And no matter how he looks to the audience, I see my brother and I talk to him like he's my brother, and I treat him like he's my brother. And that's the honesty that'll come off. And then eventually you'll just see my brother. Yes, the audience knows that this has been song, but the relationship is a brotherhood, and I feel like this episode is going to be the launch pad for that heartbeat, the pulse, this is a tug at your, heartstrings type of episode, where we're dealing with some real issues societal issues, mental health, that not only in the 70s, but in 2022, and we can compare to see how far we've actually come, because now we have hindsight, right? So you can see where in 1977, there was no help for people with PTSD. It wasn't even classified as a disease. So you can only imagine what it was like for somebody to be dealing with this and not actually be able to identify what it is. They just have these thoughts, these images, these feelings, So I'm grateful for Raymond for just really stepping in and just being like, giving me a hug and like, brother, because each episode, the guest star is essentially the lead, because Ben's song is leaping back into their life. And so he's the one that has to adjust to how everything is moving. So when he comes in the 70s, he's the one that has to adjust. So we don't adjust to him. He adjusts to us. And that's the beauty of, I know our episode and the following episodes to follow will also carry that on. And as far as Caitlin, we got to talk during, cut. So that was, but it's fun because she's like right here and I'm like ignoring her and I'm like hearing her, but you got, she's not there. it's a fun little trick that we use for the audience. But sometimes when you're acting after, when it's like cut, it's like, what's that? You gotta turn and look to her for a second. And she's giving me that look like. I was like, okay, cool. So it's fun. You gotta use your imagination. That's what it's all about, imagination.
Yeah, I hear it. Yeah, I mean, well, I asked that question specifically, especially because Quantum Leap is unique in the sense that there's a character that only one person can hear, but I know as an actor, I've heard from many actors that acting is about reacting and it's about, being present in the moment. Yet now you have to ignore all of that and you can't react to somebody else on set. So it just seems like a unique dynamic to have to pull off.
That's why acting is not just reacting, it's creating. That's what acting is. It's creating. Because you respond to what's real for you. So if I've created this and I'm responding, if I've created who my brother is, then it doesn't matter that it's been song. Because I'm reacting to the creation, who he is, who I've created him to be. So there's that both and. So that's why you can do movies like Avatar. And, these amazing live actions where they're acting in front of a green screen, and there's a big, eagle that has to fly by and you have to react to it. A Game of Thrones, when you watch the behind the scenes and how they're reacting to the dragons, it's all like, it's a child's game. It's a child's game, and that's all we're doing. We're grown-ups playing a child's game. I don't think I really ever wanted to grow up. That saying, I'm a Toys R Us kid, that stuck with me. I never kind of like let it go out the other ear. It kind of got trapped somewhere up in here. So I'm gonna be.
You're doing something right because you get to be on Quantum Leap. So you got that, right?
Right. I get to do something right.
So if we can get back a little bit to your prior relationship with Raymond, one thing that I've seen from, I guess, just basic social media and all the behind the scenes stuff on the set, it seems like this cast is having a ball, and Raymond is especially, hilarious on social media. I think the guy is he makes me laugh all the time. And do you have any funny stories from set? Just can you regale us with any tales from behind the scenes?
I mean, we have a fight, you all seen it, the fight scene where I jump out the car and I hit the guy, and I was really in it in one take. And Raymond is supposed to, Ben is supposed to come from behind me and grab me. Well, Raymond is 5'10". Sorry, Raymond, if you're watching this, I may be embellishing, but I'm 6'1", so he's so he comes up to grab me, and I thought he was the other actor that's the stunt is he comes to grab me, and I swung around and I caught him in the chin and he went flying back, and everybody's like, oh, he's like, I'm okay. I'm okay. John did knock me out. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. I killed the number one on the show. They're going to fire me. And they're like, get out of here, guy. And Marcus was like, we need him for the rest of the episode. I was like, okay, let me turn it down. This isn't really a fight. This is just, me acting like we're in a real fight. So, but that was theirs. He was like, no, it's cool. You got, he got me. I got him on the chin, and thank God I didn't, knock him out. But I have pretty broad shoulders, and I came around and bam. But Raymond, he's great, man. I mean, honestly, I couldn't be happier for a person. I mean, if anyone deserves it, it's him, because he's just a really, really great guy. You know what I'm saying? You don't meet too many genuinely great people. In general, I mean, not just in Hollywood, but in general, they're far and few between, and so it's just really good to see one of the good guys winning, So yeah, I'm really happy for him. And the set, and it's like a family. And I think Deborah Pratt she was a part of the first iteration, and so she's there producing, and so she's on set, and so there's that authenticity that they're wanting to uphold, with Quantum Leap, because the fan base is, y'all rabid, y'all are like, is this really what happened? No. So we have to be patient. It's a reboot,
One of the unique things about the reboot is that we sort of have dual storylines going on. So we're getting used to the fact that in this iteration, there's going to be a LEAP plot, and there's going to be a back at the project plot. And necessarily the LEAP plot and the project plot, they don't really intersect that much because they can't. Were you able to get to know or experience any time with the other actors in the series in your time on set?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't. Because the way the shoot was set up, this episode shoots in 8 days, and I'm shooting like 7 of them. So, but they get all of their other stuff in, because I know with our episode, at least, because we're going back into the 70s and everything has to look like it because we're really seeing the 70s. I think all of the stuff with the that's going back at the base with them, with the team, they shot that, and then it was all us. So there were days that they were on set while I was on set, but we didn't really work together because their call time is a little bit earlier than mine, or they're filming, and then once they wrap, then we can move over to start doing our stuff. So and that's normal, Usually, for a guest star, you're pretty much going to be your interactions and work is going to be with the people that are in those scenes that you're in, unless fate has it, you can get into a scene that, Meryl Streep is shooting, next, and you can bump into her on set. Sometimes those beautiful accidents happen, But I would have loved to have met Ernie Hudson. He's a legend in my mind. He's been doing this since forever. Love Goosebumps and everything else. And I would have loved to meet the other actors on the show because they're doing such a wonderful job. Yeah. And from the stories that I've heard from the crew, everybody loves them. So everybody's just fantastic.
I think the reason why I ask that is because I feel like this is another thing that sort of links back to the old show, in that Ernie's character is a Vietnam vet who Sam once leapt into. You're the first Vietnam vet that we're seeing in the new iteration. It might have been nice to have, even though it's impossible in universe, to have some kind of connection between the two characters. So in my head canon, there's a connection there, even though it's not really possible in sort of the parameters of a leap.
Right, because they're just in 2 different eras. He's in 2022, I'm in 77. So, but it doesn't mean that he's not affected by that particular leap, especially, because being a veteran and knowing that this leap, he has to save this veteran, there's still a connection there, even though we're not physically together. It's like we're all connected, we're all energy, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. So, where it affects one of us affects all of us. So that's why you can feel for your colleague in Florida and not even be there.
Yeah. And, we're thinking of you, Albie.
Yeah, man, we're thinking of you.
But I think it's again something that is a unique opportunity in the new dynamic of the show to have a connective tissue like that between someone back at the project being affected by the fate of a leap B because of similar experiences. It's not something that we saw very much in the original show. It's a dynamic that the new show can explore because it's so different. Yet at the same time, and this is going to sound weird, the very difference is what enables it to make us think of the original Quantum Leap. It's sort of that making that human connection across time. And I think that this episode does a good job of that. So thank you for that, because it's something that we've been hoping for and waiting for since the reboot came. We've gotten plenty of it, plenty of fan service, plenty of nods, They know we're watching, and they give us little Easter eggs here and there. But this one feels a little bit more like wow, this is Quantum Leap. So I want to thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was an honor to to come into this universe, this quantum leap universe. I feel humbled to have been given the torch to carry, and I pass it on, and hopefully it'll continue burning. It was a lot of fun bringing this Daryl to life, and like I said, my only wish is that someone will see themselves in him and relate to his story. Because it's a lot of people's story, unfortunately.
Well, John, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Quantum Leap podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And we're back. Wow. John Chaffin. Wow. This guy. I mean, I'm impressed. So good. So good. That character could have made or break the episode, and it way made the episode, him being cast there. So props to the casting director, and to him. I mean, this is one that I will always look forward to revisiting, because I just love this episode, and he is a big part of the reason why.
Absolutely. And John, don't feel bad about hitting Raymond. If I was there, I would have too. He's just far too pretty.
Yeah. I mean,
he still looks good after, so.
I don't want to say like John carried the episode, but he kind of did. Often like the original series, Sam would leap into somebody and you think it's about him, but it's always great when Sam is the supporting character and he has to help somebody else in order to leap. And this is what happens with Ben. Ben leaps here, and it's not about winning the fight because he loses in the second round. It doesn't matter. It's about what happens with Daryl, who ends up committing suicide. And so John, I would imagine it's challenging having to play all these different emotions. We do see him happy, when he's in a good mood with his brother, and then, kind of being, what happens with that other boxer where, they drive off and then they call him like, oh, the baby killer and whatnot. So, we see him go from 0 to 60.
Was that a thing? A baby killer? Where did that came out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Well, from Vietnam. Yeah,
okay.
in Vietnam, soldiers were called things like that. They were spit on. They were treated very poorly back at home. So not much has changed. Yeah. Okay. So
I wasn't sure if that was specific to his character or that was just like a general thing at the time, because I might have been alive back then in the mid 70s, but I don't remember it.
It was both, and that's why Daryl has that line about like, I was serving my country, like it's not like what they wanted to do. They had to do things that they didn't want to do, like, but they had to. It was a job, it was their duty. So he was in a very tough position, but it's not easy, and to be called that's why he stopped, and Raymond makes a point. I'm not gonna say it's a good point, because if Raymond was in Daryl's shoes, I feel he would have done the same thing, just he's driving off, and then to be called that, it's just like, no, like, you don't understand what I was going through. How dare you say such things to me? You're back at home, you sleep nicely on your bed, and you fight in a ring, and you make a lot of money. I went to war, I come back, and my own country cannot take care of me. He talks about how, what is the doctor going to do for me? How are they going to treat what I have? Those are really powerful words. And even till this day, our soldiers aren't properly taken care of when they come back home. So he had a lot to do. He talks about how he did, the research and things like this. So I really appreciate that somebody just kind of doing their homework. And he talks about, having an old soul, and like, credits his parents, like with the music and all of that. So I feel like he had a good feel for the era as well too. So it was really interesting to see John as Daryl, but then to see John as John, I was like, it looks like two different guys. And then he talks about how, was it Perry Mason? Like, he's going to be the upcoming Perry Mason, and he's going to look different there too. So I'm interested, like, well, how different is he going to be? Clean shaven and hair different, bald or something? I
pictured some kind of makeup or something. Who knows? But it's amazing how good of an actor he is to just make those two people, both him, so different. And I really felt for Daryl in that scene, because he's in so much pain and somebody is kicking him while he's down instead of supporting him. they're villains, bad guys, of course, but I mean, I just felt for him. So, and it's hard because when you're in pain and somebody hurts you, you lash out. It was
Absolutely.
it was rough, but I think it was that whole scene was written and performed perfectly because I totally felt it. There was some kind of weird cut, like before they got in the car, it seemed like it was missing a scene or something. That kind of was a little weird to me. It was just like maybe they didn't have coverage or something, but it just seemed like a jump cut too much for me. I don't know, but it did.
I do. It didn't change the
right.
scene, but you could be right about something because in that very scene, I didn't think that there was a cut, but I was just like, because I watched it twice. I was like, I was watching the scene, I was like, I don't remember that other boxer being like that big of an antagonist in this episode, and I was like, oh man, he kind of takes a back seat. And it very much is Daryl's episode. And I was like, this kind of reminds me of like the Leap Home where we had No-Nos where like he's the antagonist, but he doesn't have a big role. Like he's just there to be that. It was about Sam. It was about Tom and all that. So like I kind of see like a little bit of parallels. I don't know if that's intentional, but if Martin Garrell's a fan.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Peter, because something that people have been talking an awful lot about is that it does seem that the path that Ben is taking in his leaps does seem to be paralleling. Is that a word? Does seem to have
it is now.
a lot of
does
seem to have a lot of parallels to what Sam actually went through in a lot of his leaps. Like we saw today, there's obviously the Vietnam connection. There's the connection to the right hand of God. There's the connection to this baby killer idea, and I think in MIA he had to help the guy get over the freezing when he saw the baby, that sort of thing. I don't know what your opinion is of it, but do you think that these leaps are going to continue to have all these noticeable parallels to what Sam had to do in his leaps, and will it be needed for him to get to ultimately the destination he needs to get to?
That's the big mystery, right? Like, what is Ben up to, and what is going on with him and Janice? Like, the way is it Georgina? Is that who plays
Sounds
Janice? Right. Yeah, the way she plays Janice, it's like Janice is like on edge, and she clearly has some very strong feelings about everything, including her mother and her father and Sam. And so that's the big mystery. Like the parallels. There's a title in Cobra Kai that we often like to use when we're comparing the show and the original movies. It's called Different But Same, and and I see a lot of that also with this Quantum Leap. There's a lot of different but same. I like the idea of some of the parallels. Like, does Ben think that he has what could be clues that could lead him to an answer to bringing back Sam Beckett, or a way that they can travel and still come back home without anything going caca? Right. I don't think Addison would say that, but there'll be.
I hope she
it'd be kind of fun to have like a nod. But I do like the idea of like, what if they are connected in some way and we have not seen it yet? What if Daryl was down there and served with Tom and Magic? How cool would that be? I don't know what that would do, like what the purpose of that would be, but I'm just trying to find some of those connective tissues, to try to understand, like, Ben, what are you doing? But if the crew back at home can't figure it out, I can't either. Like, I can't be smarter than the crew.
Yeah. Well, look, I did like the fact that they did have a connection to someone who's been in war through Addison, and the fact that she has experienced friends of hers who suffer from PTSD gave Ben, something to bounce off. But do you think it was a bit of a wasted opportunity when you literally have a Vietnam veteran working at Project Quantum Leap, not having him giving the advice?
I think this falls into my theory also, where Ben could be fixing things that Sam might have done, because Daryl has this bad PTSD from being in Vietnam. And remember, like we were talking, Sam was in Vietnam and he saved the whole platoon, his brother and everybody, when he leaped into magic. So who knows what that caused. Yeah, leapt. They said it again this week, so
Yeah,
it's
that
official.
seems to
That's
be
a
the
word now,
consensus.
so we
And
can say
I
it.
let
We
out a
can say it.
huge hallelujah.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I can finally say leapt without being corrected because so many times I was corrected in our original podcast. So something Sam might have done by saving that whole group
Tom.
of soldiers, or Tom and his whole troop. Is that what they're called? I don't know.
It depends on the amount of people. It could have been
Platoon, maybe.
squad,
Okay.
platoon, yeah.
Platoon, squad, yeah. But he saved all of them, so who knows what bad things that caused, and that might have contributed to Daryl's post-traumatic stress syndrome. So maybe he is still continuing along the journey to try to fix what Sam made wrong by putting things right. Maybe. That was a thought.
Yeah, I like your idea there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just still think it was a bit of a wasted opportunity when they could have brought Magic into the imaging chamber and had him give some of his experiences and some advice on how he got through it and how so he could see some of his friends suffer or something like that. That's how I would have gone about it if I was writing the episode. Not that I'm a writer or have any interest in being one, but it just
Well, now
seemed
that
like
you
a bit like a
mention it,
wasted opportunity to me. Yeah.
it would have been really good there. I didn't miss it watching the episode, but I could see where they could do that. Yeah, but I think we'll see a little bit more of Magic's Vietnam history come to play soon.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Hayden. I do like that idea. Maybe if there was a connection between Magic and Daryl, maybe I would have liked that better. But Addison is a soldier, or was a soldier herself as well, and I do like this because Ben, like, what in the previous episode, didn't he like thank her for trusting him when like others doesn't seem to, like back at home? And so I think we're also seeing like this is a continuation of that. Like she's going to trust Ben, so Ben's going to continue trusting her, and so if she's going to be the guide, she has to do guide like things, so I thought it was fine. I just feel like everything's back at home. Like Magic needs to kind of oversee that, right? Like he has to come up with like a short term lie or something, the answers to the powers that be above them kind of thing. So he's got some stuff on his plate right now. I don't know if you could have done that with this specific episode, but I would like to see that in future ones, like they have done in the old series.
And I think in universe that Magic would say to himself, "Well, no, Addison's totally got this because she's been there. She's a fellow soldier, and she knows what to do." So I think he would have delegated that to her because he would trust her with that delicate situation.
Do you think he would have some sort of line like, "I'm getting too old for this stuff"?
That'd be great.
Who are you going to call? Not Magic.
Yep. I think the second line of the episode might have been Magic's, might have been Ernie Hudson's when he said, "And Magic still doesn't understand" at the end.
Yeah.
With the Real Housewives of New Jersey, so that was funny.
Do you think at some point in the show he will understand?
Oh, if they keep the thread going, he'll be watching it by himself, eating popcorn, going, "Oh."
Speaking of things that people aren't really understanding, I'm getting so sick of seeing the same question pop up on every single Facebook page. Where's the waiting room? Can we discuss that a little bit? Because it kind of seems like we might be getting somewhere towards an answer, maybe even more so in the next episode, hint, hint. But it's like we got confirmation in this episode that there's a bit of a difference between how Ben leaps to how Sam leapt originally. I know in the main podcast they were saying that it's a mind leap, but I don't think that's the case because if it was, then Ben's body would have to be somewhere. We can see it's clearly, where he is.
Where is Ben's body?
Well, that's exactly it. It would have to be where Ben is. But we do have this confirmation now that he will be able to take on some of the physical traits of the person that he's leapt into as well. Like, he's got Danny's fighting ability and his strength. So what seems to be happening now is it seems like when Ben leaps into someone, there's this kind of merging of the two people. So there's actually not a waiting room with the person being bounced out anymore. But what's happening is both Ben and the LEAP are there. Ben's pretty much got control, but they're essentially the same person now. They can take on each other's traits. It's not like Ben is in the person's body and only has those traits, because we know that Ben still is right-handed like he had been originally. So he still has his own traits as well. It just seems like now, because of this kind of, merging of the two, that they've got the best traits of each other, which I guess would be needed in some cases, maybe to help get through future leaps. Who knows? But can we stop? Could we please stop asking where the waiting room is? It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not so much a mind leap. It is still body leaps, but there's this kind of merging of the bodies now too. They each take on each other's physical traits.
I think in the original pilot script, it explicitly states it's a mind leap. So I don't know if they're still going with that or not. But it seems to me like
I hope
But
not.
again, where is Ben's body? Where is Ben's body? Is
well, that's the thing. They need to explain that if it's a mind leap.
Is it on? But where's Sam's body? Right?
Sam has his body, like he always had.
Oh, so that was a body leap, or mind leap?
Yes,
in the original series,
it was always a body leap. Yes, always a body leap.
So he's got his body.
The only one where there was any kind of possibility of it not was 8.5 months, and that's literally the one where they explain that it's a body leap.
Okay. Oh yeah, and the one where he's double amputee walking. So yeah, he has his body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he can see when he's blind, or the person he's leapt into is blind. He can walk when he's an amputee. He can father a child. He has the strength of a man when he's a woman. In the body of a woman, or when he's in
where's
the guise
Ben's body?
of a woman, I should say.
So where's Ben's body?
So Ben's body is, with Ben as well, but his body and the Leapies have kind of merged together.
So he weighs twice as much.
Don't overcomplicate this, Albie.
Okay.
I just
to
went
me,
cross-eyed.
it's just it's the Austin Powers explanation of time travel. Like, don't worry about it. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Or what about
that's the only way it
Christopher
can
Walken?
be.
Christopher Walken, Blast from the Past, just because it must.
Yep. Exactly. What do you think of Addison and Ben's relationship in this episode? I like that where when Ben gets knocked out, he has kind of like that memory flashback of being in bed with Addison. That was one, kind of hot, and two, kind of romantic. I think that he's starting to remember.
A couple of different things there. Not often did we see Sam's memories in that way. It's just usually like him telling us, right? So I do like to see that, just kind of the glimpse, a little tease. On the main podcast, they talked about how there were publicity stills, like we got to see Addison. So okay, so I didn't see that, but I just kind of, I know obviously we as the viewers know it's her. There was another point where he gets knocked out in the very beginning when he's sparring, and I don't know if this was intentional, but I thought the way Raymond was laying like against the ropes, it was pretty comical, like kind of like a Sam physical comedy there. The way he was laying it out, I was actually
a little
laughing
bit
at that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But on the relationship between Addison and Ben in this particular episode, I found interesting when we get this this other character, Danielle. So Danielle is also Daniel's girlfriend. The way she like walks into the locker room and immediately kisses Ben, and Addison seems to be okay with that. So I think many of us were kind of wondering what that's going to be like, knowing the relationship between the two right now. But she handled it pretty well there.
I was watching Caitlin's reactions when Angela was kissing Ben, because I thought, wow, it should have been, like you were saying, Peter, it should have been something that like was really hurtful and a dramatic moment, but it was just almost played for comedy, if not completely ignored altogether. And I watched her several times, Addison's reactions, and there was none there. So I think that shows that she's like a logical thinker, and knowing that this isn't him cheating on her. It just happens to be the mission. And she was a soldier, so I'm sure stuff like that happened on secret covert spy missions. You got to kiss somebody to do something. Maybe I was thinking Alias. I don't know, but
I will not give any army secrets out.
Okay, Peter over there kissing people in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, Albie, what you're saying is true, at least while Addison is there, like with Ben.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's just, like, Addison herself is probably just a very good actress, because you could see once she left, it was getting to her. She was starting to lose it a bit at the project itself. So,
and that might have been
we know what she knows what her job is.
Physical.
She can kind of separate herself from the job, but it will come back once she's not in the actual situation.
Now, that'll be interesting for something to keep an eye out on, because I haven't really quite made a decision whether I buy it, just because I kind of lean more onto what Albie is saying, because she does kind of joke about it too. Like, she refers to him as like lover boy. Like I kind of miss that stuff with Al too, where he needs to crack jokes like that. But not only that, when he would also like talk about, to the other, to like the villain of the episode or something. Oh, guy, if I was there, I would punch you in the face. Like that type of stuff. I want to see if Addison has any of those type of reactions, that kind of fire her up. So different but same.
There was good banter between Ben and Addison this time, though. You could kind of see their familial connection now, especially in this episode. She was cracking jokes at him. She was poking fun every now and then. That's something that only two close people would be able to do. So it is good that we saw a little bit more of that. Yeah.
They had that rhythm between the two where you felt like they'd been together for years and just were playing off each other out of just knowing each other's rhythm and the snips and the jokes, and it was just perfect. I noticed that during the weigh-in scene, I think mostly.
There was another moment between the two where they're referring to when she passes out, and he's like, I couldn't catch you, and she's like, yeah, it sucks, welcome to my world. But it's kind of different though, because he still sees her as a colleague, and she's like, this is the person that she loves and wants to spend the rest of her life with. And so like it's a little bit different for the two. It's a little bit more heartbreaking for Addison because of she has her memories with them together. Ben doesn't.
I was expecting a good dramatic heartbreak scene with something like Ben falling in love or something during a leap. And I remember, I think it might have been in the preview of this season on Quantum Leap or something, but I remember somewhere seeing Addison take her ring off. But so far, she still has it on. So I don't know. I might have just made that up in my head.
You know what was an interesting scene that involved falling that was very emotional? Beth falling.
Oh my goodness! It
literally,
was. Yeah.
That's got to be a stunt double. Oh my gosh!
Was that? I was hoping, but if not, but yeah. And you know what? Until they cut back to her on the phone with Magic, I was like, unless they bring her back, she could be dead. We don't know if it's poison or how bad this Janice character is. Hopefully, it's just like sleepy time tea.
Okay, so it was the tea that she was referring to, because I read the captions. I watch everything with subtitles on, so I don't miss anything. And I feel the caption was worded "How's tea?" because I tried rewinding it. I go, "Who's tea? Did I miss something?" But I guess she was referring to the tea.
So Janice brought the wine over, and she wanted to have wine with her mom. And immediately I thought, she's going to put something in the wine. And then that's when Beth said, "How about tea?" instead, because I guess she's not drinking or she didn't want to drink, which makes sense. But she trusted her daughter not to drug her. But, I guess you can't trust your kids all the time. But I that fall was like it looked pretty rough, but I'm glad she made it. I don't know what to think of Janice and what she's doing. I know she's got the hand link that Al left in his safe at his house with Beth or whatever, and I know she's building a observation chamber. What do they call that?
Well, what do you think she's building? To me, it looked a little bit like the big orb that we would see Ziggy talk from. I actually thought she might be trying to recreate the original Ziggy.
Oh, see, I was thinking
that kind of makes sense.
Data from the hand link.
My first impression was she was going to be a hologram trying to mess with Ben in the past.
But they work together, or they're working together, right?
Yeah, well, she'll be there,
Well,
so
the
it'll be
thing is,
Addison, Ben,
they
and
got no
Janice.
communication now.
Right.
So maybe this was the
Yeah,
plan all along. It'll be interesting to
It's
see
just
what happens.
it will be. It's a huge question mark because Albie, you were just mentioning like she doesn't trust her daughter with like the tea or the drinking, but also she doesn't trust her with like all the Al's tech. Clearly, and the way she that conversation, that dialogue, the way those two are speaking together. Beth is very much coming from a place of, I don't want your father's work to fall into the wrong hands, which is you. Like that's what I read from that scene, and it's just
See, I
so
didn't read
ominous
it that
and
way, actually.
interesting. Okay.
No, I read it more like Beth's lived with Al, 60 years or however long they were married. But of the last 30 or so of them, Al was pretty much obsessed with trying to get Sam back. I think she's more worried about Janice and her physical and mental health if she goes down the same obsession that Al had. So I think mainly the reason why she's been holding Janice back is she doesn't want to see Janice go through the same things that Al does, whether or not she wants to or whether or not she's capable. I think Beth's actually looking out more for her well-being, especially because, as we know, Janice is not stable. Like Beth herself has said, she wanted to get Janice help. So she's worried that if, Janice does go down this rabbit hole, there's not going to be any way back. Yeah. So I don't really think it's Beth worried that Janice is going to do something, nefarious with the technology or her position at Project Quantum Leap. It's more she's worried about Janice's own physical and mental health.
Maybe I'm reading it that way because of what's going on at headquarters as well. Like I kind of forget what was said to Magic, where he says, "Oh, is it Jen?" Where she's like, "What is it?" And he says, "It's bad." Right? It's something like that. Because again, like when Jen and Magic went to go visit Janice, she was gone. And so they had to steal her hard drive. So we know where they're coming from, and I don't know. I don't think I don't know if this is going to be some sort of swerve where they're trying to like misdirect us, making us think that a Calavici could actually be like the antagonist. It's just such a big question mark. But like I'm very much kind of like, what is it now? Like at first I was like, I wasn't sure if I wanted it, right? Because I want my Quantum Leap feels, and I got it with this episode, and they still gave us that mystique towards the end of the episode there too. So they're finding that right balance. But I'm here for it. Like I really want to know what is going on, and so there's just so many moving parts. I don't know if that is kind of a con or a knock on it right now, but as long as it kind of comes all together and everybody like kind of serves their purpose, then I think the payoff will be great. As of right now, I'm still kind of like, I'm not sure if like we need Jen, because I haven't really seen her do anything that like Ian could do. Like they could do probably the two jobs, together. Like I'm not asking to eliminate Jen, but like I'm still waiting for something. Maybe her and Magic maybe work better as a pair. We're starting to kind of see that, but I don't know. What were you guys thoughts on Jen right now?
Jen, I think her true character's nature has not yet been revealed.
Okay.
I think she's just there in the background for a swerve reveal later on down the line that she was there all along and we didn't see it coming, but they're doing that by just basically ignoring her character, which is not, I don't think, a good way to do it, because it almost makes it too obvious that she's going to have something else to do in the future, if that makes sense.
Do you think maybe Jen could be working with Janice? Remember, Jen's the head of cybersecurity, and she's the one that's noticing when Janice is able to hack in and steal the data. What if she's been helping?
Now I don't know this at all.
Steal the data.
I don't know this at all for a fact, because I am a little bit ahead of the shows, but I don't know this at all. But my feeling is that we're led to believe that Janice is the antagonist, but then we'll find out she's not the antagonist. She's helping Ben, and the true antagonist would be Jen. That's my guess. That's my feeling. That's my instinct. but we'll see.
And theory time.
That's because she's an evil leaper, just so you know, if you haven't kept up with that.
Yeah.
Jen's
That's what I was
evil
going
leaper,
to
yes.
say.
100%.
Do we think there's an
100%.
evil leaper somewhere, either
Yeah, Jen. It's Jen.
leapt into Janice
100%.
or leapt into Jen?
Because
That's kind of
Jen
cool.
seems like too good an actress to just be in the background going, okay, here's your coffee, or whatever she's doing. I don't know what she's doing. But I think it's going to be that big reveal, dun, 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 and she has that smirk on her face, and she's going to, I don't know. I think Carolyn Seymour's going to show up at some
a
point.
theory that I did read from someone on one of the Facebook groups was they thought that maybe Janice is creating a new accelerator, and this might be actually the origin of the Evil Leaper project. I don't think that's the case, because we've got to remember the Evil Leapers existed during the original series prior to Sam actually saving Al's marriage and making sure that Janice ends up in existence. I don't think she can create the Evil Leaper project when she doesn't exist. The person didn't like hearing that and said, oh, it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. But
so effect can predate cause. I learned that from Star Trek Voyager. But I don't think that's it. I think it's I think because she's got the hand link. Janice has the hand link, so I think she's going to contact Ben as a hologram, and we'll get the old hand link sounds and the swoosh of the door and everything. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But I don't know this. This is my guess.
Well, that didn't go through 30 years of technological advancement. That's why I haven't really had a problem with it, maybe as much as you have, Peter, because I realize, 30 years have passed in real time since the end of the series and the start of the new one. Of course, technology is going to advance.
I totally get that. I buy that, and it seems like they've been actively working, but it's been only 2 leapers. And how many handlings have been built? Like, I don't know. Like that's my thing. Like, I like to see the evolution of technology. Like the iPhone, you can see the evolution, like iPhone 1 to iPhone 14. Like you could kind of like, okay, that looks like the iPhone. And I can see the modifications that they made. But the handling, like that's a whole new manufacturer, that made that. The original handlink company, got bought out by this other person, and created what we have now. Maybe that's what happened.
The iPhone handlink is in episode 6.
Yeah. And we also need to remember too, this is a recreation of the original project. They shut the original one down, so it would make sense they're going to start a whole lot of stuff from scratch, maybe with some data that they've gotten, but they need an up-to-date supercomputer, they need up-to-date technology and all that. So that doesn't really bother me that I can't see the evolution there, because there likely wouldn't have been.
And we don't know what they have.
Been shut down.
My favorite, I think, moment of the episode was when this woman that Ben has no idea who she is, and she just walks up to him and gives him the biggest, most passionate kiss that lasted quite a few shots. If you remember that, I don't know, that was hot, and it was interesting.
It was.
I liked her character. I liked the other character. What was the other character's name?
Penny.
Penny. Yes, Penny.
My
Penny
daughter's
Hill.
name.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Penny. I didn't think of that. That's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking Benny Hill when they said Penny Hill. I was like, what is that? No, Penny Hill. Oh, I liked her character. I thought it was funny that she brought sandwiches in Tupperware. But the 2 women in this episode I thought were really good, and they were integral to the plot, I think, especially bailing the guys out. I really want a woman that'll bail me out of jail. I've never been to jail, but if I do, I want to get bailed out by a woman, and get kissed on the street next to a.
Well, we discussed recently how we might get thrown into jail. Is like we're going to sneak onto the set, and then get kicked out. No, I really do appreciate the character of Penny as well. Just the fact that you could see that Daryl's mental state also affected his marriage. right? Like she says that she doesn't even recognize him anymore or something to that effect. That's very real. So clearly he is kind of bottling up his emotions, and he's not opening up to her and sharing what he's feeling and stuff like that. And also kudos for her to stay with him, right? Because clearly she loves him, and it would just be too easy for her to leave him because of that, and that would just break Daryl even more. But Angela, it kind of crazy, like we haven't we've seen this stuff with Sam too, being with the wrong girl, like, oh, she belongs to somebody else. And so I thought that was a very interesting reveal. Okay, she's the distraction, and I can see why.
Yeah, she's very distracting.
And then she's
gorgeous.
not the distraction, just a red herring.
Yeah,
the red herring.
Yeah, there you go. That's a first for Quantum Leap, I think. But she was very distracting, very gorgeous, very outgoing. The actress who played her, Danielle Larracuente, we actually got to talk to her. Matt interviewed her. So I don't know if you guys saw that yet, but we'll play that now, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. But she seems like an amazing person, full of energy, and that's a great interview. So let's play that now.
Hi there, welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast. I am thrilled to be bringing you the latest interview with a member of the cast of the new series of Quantum Leap, Danielle Larracuente. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you so much. We have just seen Danielle in the latest episode, Somebody Up There Likes Ben. So we're going to be talking about that for sure. We love the episode on the podcast. We were so excited about it. So I'm really looking forward to delving into your experiences. But first, I'd love to understand a bit of background about you, how you got into acting, some of the beats to your life, and this explosion that your career seems to have undergone in the last couple of years. You've just been popping up everywhere. So, yeah, tell us about it. Where did you start?
I'm just so appreciative for that right now. But yeah, I'm actually a child actor. I started at the age of 4 years old. My first gig was Snuggles, and I was very afraid of the bear. I come from New York. I got my bearings and really learned the art of acting in theater. I am a Broadway girl. I was on The Lion King on Broadway as a child and did a lot of theater work, and decided to move to LA when I was about 15, I would say. Did a little bit of TV, but then I really took a break, and I decided to focus on, who I was as a girl and what was I going to be, and if I really wanted to, because acting was for me. So I went to college. I got my cosmetology license. I did all these things. I became a mom. And then in 2019, after having my son, I said, how am I going to tell my son, hey, go after your dreams if I'm not? So just pedal to the metal. I got back into it, studied for a year straight, learned self-taping, which was not a thing back then. So it was a whole new world for me. Yeah, it was really tough at first. And then 2020 hit, I got a role on Vita, and I've just been rolling since. And I'm so grateful and ecstatic and just so happy to be working.
Fantastic. And I mean, yeah, it's always interesting with child actors. They seem to always go one of two ways. Either they're in the business for a few years and then it's not for me, or they just keep going and I guess get to retirement and look back and say, where was real life? You've managed to balance the two. That's really impressive.
I want to, give all the credit to my parents, who are not in the biz at all. They're actually in law, and they always supported me, but they never pushed it. And they were really big on make sure you're really well-rounded. And I want you to get an education, and I want you to try different things. And I'm a business owner too. So they're always listening. Danielle, what are you doing now? I'm always doing something. I'm always on this, jumping around. Anybody that knows me, I'm just pretty much like a go-getter. Recently, a director told me, it was so funny. He's like, Danielle, you have one button. It's go.
I'm getting that feeling. That's coming through loud and clear. So, you started off in theatre, and then is this now you've re-entered the world of entertainment? Have you got any plans to go back to theatre, or is that in the past for you? It's now all about film and TV.
Theater is very hard, and it is, I mean, a beast of a work, and I love it so much. And a dream come true for me, honestly, would be to go back to The Lion King, but play as an Big Nala. That would be like a cap, like career. All right, that's accomplished. So I'm trying to manifest that for myself. Would be a dream come true. So if I'm going back to theater, it'd definitely be that.
And so yeah, you've had your one button, which is go, the last couple of years, and suddenly through all this go, you end up with the Quantum Leap gig. How did that happen? How did that come about?
I was in shock. My dad is a huge fan of Quantum Leap. Like, that was his show.
I like him already.
Yes, he is like obsessed. So he was so ecstatic that I was going to be on the show. I auditioned it, and it was actually super quick. They booked me off tape, and it literally flew by. And I'm so grateful because I'm actually a huge boxing, UFC, anything martial arts fan. Like, that is my thing. Everybody knows Saturdays are my thing. I get my wings. I sit in front of my TV. Like, I grew up in martial arts. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. So I was so grateful. I've never been able to go to a UFC match or a boxing match in person, but I got to do it on TV. So I'm very excited about that.
So did you, with that in mind, did you know about the background to this episode before you auditioned? What information did you go in there?
They pretty much just give you, I don't remember if I got the script or not. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But a lot of times, I mean, I just got the scene. And any of my actors out there, I would suggest, I mean, literally, I dissect that scene from top to bottom because you will learn a lot. Where we are. Okay, all right, we're in a boxing ring. Why are we in a boxing ring? Why are we in a locker room? Like, I go in. And I also, we get breakdowns. I look up everybody, I want to learn as much as I can, and I want to give this character as much justice as I can with the information that I have. So that's what I did.
With your background, because I've just watched the episode. As I say, the podcast team loved it. I do not have a background in watching sports. With your fandom there, do you think it came across as realistic? Was it, because to me it was dramatic, it was entertaining. I have no idea if that was actually a realistic episode.
Oh man, they were freaking B and Ray were phenomenal. Like, I don't even know. It looks so realistic. There was moments you'll see. I don't know if it came off on camera, but I was like, oh, yikes. That one hurt, They were so good. And, I mean, they had not that long of training, and they killed it. I mean, of course, Quantum Leap, they gave us as many experts as they can, and they really, everything looked realistic to me. I was so excited to be there. I was like, I'm at a boxing match.
Yeah, it shows. I mean, you can tell that you're in the zone there. Obviously, the reaction of your character seems maybe excited and also a little uncomfortable, given what's going on. And that sort of goes on to something I wanted to ask you about, which is how much you could actually see while you were performing, because I assumed that while you were doing all those reactions, there was just a director off camera saying, and there's a punch here and there's a duck here, and you were reacting to that. Were you actually reacting to some real action?
No, thank God. We were able to really watch it. Yeah, thank God. The way they had it set up, I saw everything. I mean, oh my God. Ray went down a couple times, a lot of times. And so did B. I'm like, man, poor guys. They were probably hurting after that. But we got a show for sure.
Yeah, we spoke to Ray on Saturday night, and he said he'd such a lovely guy. He said he'd done some amateur boxing when he was a kid, but had to really kind of up his game for this. So,
oh my God, that is so cool. I mean, how cool is it for him to be able to try all of these things as an actor? I mean, he's literally going to be the jack of all trades. He's going to be able to do everything. I mean, it's just, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. He was so freaking awesome on set. I mean, you forget that he's number one on the call sheet. I swear to you. Like, he's so cool, so down to earth. It was like a family, all of us.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about that atmosphere on set. Yeah, what can you tell us about that?
Everybody's awesome. So nice. Anybody who gets on the show or hears it, just support this show because we need more productions like this. Everyone's so kind. They also give the actors the space that they need. It's very collaborative. It's especially Marcus. He's one of my favorite directors that I've worked with, honestly, because it is like we're doing this together. You know, he talks us through a lot of stuff, and there wasn't that. I didn't get nervous much. It was just so chill and relaxing, and it felt safe and warm. And I'll give you guys a little thing. This was my first on-screen kiss ever, so I was freaking out. Yeah.
Okay, I really wanted to talk about the kiss, so okay, I'm glad you went there. Now, one of the sort of acting tricks that goes back to the original series that comes up time and time again is that everyone around has to ignore the hologram. They used to have to ignore Dean Stockwell. Now all the actors have to ignore Caitlin Bassett. You had to do a scene where you were kissing Raymond Lee while his fiance watches you and is giving you daggers while you're ignoring her and thinking Raymond Lee is someone else. What was going on in that scene in your mind? You know,
I wasn't Danielle. I was Angela, and Angela does not see her. So that's it. The Danielle, I was like, this is awkward, you know? But again, they were so cool about it. I was extremely nervous, and, you know, Marcus was giving me a little slack. He was like, I'm going to mess with you and do this. And I was like, please don't. I really could not sleep last night. I was like, my dad's going to watch this, my first kiss on screen.
Yeah, it's a really fun scene, but it's definitely, it takes, as I say, quite a quantum leap trope and pushes it to the next level, because usually those things are played for comedy. You've got the hologram just kind of talking and being ignored, but yeah, to actually be kissing her partner, and he at this point in the show he still doesn't know that either. Right. So yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, so I don't know if it was that moment of like, yeah, if there was that moment of like, oh, he doesn't realize that he has a fiance, so I don't know if he was really like catching on. Yeah, definitely, it was interesting for sure. How many takes? Go on, I've got to know.
You know, I was such in a moment, and I was so like, you know, when you're so heightened, you kind of don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I would say like 7 or 8, I would say, but I can't really remember because I was like freaking out.
Yeah.
Freaking out. And oh my God, Ray was so cool about it. He's like, whatever you need, like, don't worry about it. I was like, can I grab you? Is everything okay? And super chill. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better on-screen kiss. It looked very natural, despite the fact that as the audience we're obviously, you know, looking at this through Addison's eyes and through Ray's eyes. So yeah. Let's maybe talk a bit more generally. The episode takes place in 77, so there's a lot of costume. You know, we've already talked about the sport element, but just more generally, there's the costumes, the props, the set pieces. What was that like walking into 1977? Oh my God! I mean, it couldn't happen better, because right now I feel like style is going towards that. So the minute I left my first date, I ran to the store and bought some bell bottoms because I was obsessed. I was so excited. I am still drooling over that pink jumpsuit. I wanted it so bad. Oh my God. It was like perfect. They tailored it to me. I'm like, I was born in the wrong era. I was like feeling the little shoulder pads and the little flared hair. It was great. Everybody was loving the style on set. It was so cool. Did you even ask to keep the pink jumpsuit? Or... There was like a... Is there a gap in the universal wardrobe at the moment? I know. That they haven't discovered yet? Because it was rented, unfortunately, but I wished so much I could. Constantly. And you still got it. If you're able to send it, I'll pay you for it. I love it so much. We just need a sequel episode. Bring you back. Yes. Bring Daryl back. Just so I can wear that outfit. Absolutely.
Is there anything more you can tell me about the experience generally, the atmosphere on set? I mean, I asked you about that kind of that welcoming atmosphere that we've heard about so much. Is there anything else about the cast that you worked with that you can share with us?
I would really say that like it went very smooth, which is really great to see, and definitely there was everyone was very mindful of the actor, which I thought was really nice to see, and our craft and where we are in the scene, and really trying to take care of us, which that was, I mean, I'm telling you, like, this was one of my favorite experiences by far. I can't say enough. I could only hope, and I did mention it to Ray. I was like, I can only hope to work with him again. I can only hope to work with Marcus again, and that whole cast. We were like a family. Like, I did not want to leave. I really did not. Everyone was so amazing. That'd be so cool if they somehow he gets jumped back there or something. That'd be so cool. And you can like see where we are now. But again, just the professionalism, just the warmth. Everybody was rooting for each other. I mean, even if like we made mistakes, I mean, it was so quick to like, hey, you got this, man. You got, like, that's not always the norm. And it was just so lovely to see. It really was.
And that interests me, that they were able to give so much focus on the actors, because I think by this point in the production, there'd already been a little bit of a false start, and I don't know if they were actually running behind or what, but I know they had to reshoot bits of the pilot. So I'd imagine that by this point things were a bit frenetic and just go for it and shoot what you can. But from what I'm hearing from you, there's actually, maybe a bit more time to explore making a quality product with quality performance.
Yeah. If there was, I didn't know it. They didn't show it. You know what I mean? If it was crazy, and what you want, because you want us actors to come in here and focus on the script and focus on the character. So I didn't feel that at all. I kind of tend to fly high regardless of others around me, which I think is a really good quality that I've worked on for a long time. Just kind of staying in my lane and staying really positive, and being a huge influence for my community, my culture, being Latina out here, and really trying to make a difference and pave the way for others. I'm definitely just trying to create those relationships and show my talents and support my community. So that's all I'm focused on.
You mentioned about supporting your community and the representation.
Right.
Is that something that informs your choice of work, how you approach a character? You talk a little bit about that generally?
In a sense of, because the character's Latina? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I generally don't, because my goal is to not be, I'm about the craft, and my goal is to not be boxed in on the stereotypes of being Latina. So I've been so grateful. All the roles that I've been given have all been very different, and that's how I want to keep it. I want the world to see that we do everything, and I come from, really strong parents that were professionals, and we did it all. Like, my mom's a civil rights lawyer in Los Angeles right now. So, we are important roles out here. We make difference for professionals or not. And I just get really excited more about the character. And for me, Angela was, she wore heart on her sleeve, which I connected to right away. And she was in a relationship, kind of more because what it was, and fell in love and really put her heart out there and supported, and I liked her, and I hope everybody else did too. And I wanted to show that like they were really in love right there, guys. They really were. And she really had his back. So I thought that was important to show that.
And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about the love story element, because I think that moment where it's revealed early on about what's happening there, and there's a beautiful shot of you that just says so much, as you're obviously sat there looking very uncomfortable, not very happy. How do you prepare for something like that? Because the rest of the scenes you were in, you were very, you were kissing Raymond. There was other bits you were doing throughout the episode. You were in a confident place. That looked like quite a dark place that you went to. Can you share a bit about your preparation for that moment?
Yeah, so my approach to a lot of different scenes, depending on how much the character knows in that moment, or if something traumatic is going to happen to them in that moment in the scene, depends on how much work I do beforehand. So in this case, there was a lot of backstory of how I felt about him. So I did prep for that. It wasn't like he all of a sudden was being a little bit aggressive with me. You know, this was definitely for some time. So I did some work on that and just tried to be in that moment and really connect. I love to tend to connect to the opposite of that. So focusing on the love and everything like that. And then once I'm in that scene, not getting that love, it kind of gives that reaction, you know, because that's what I really want. And of course, having B play, you know, my boyfriend number one, amazing. I mean, to just, you know, bounce off of him, it was a piece of cake. When you have great actors beside you, they feed you, and it was easy. It really was. And I'm just really glad that came across. And you know, it was a human quality. You know, there's a lot of people, I feel like there's a stigma to, you know, oh, she's with him and then she's with him. But just that human quality of, you know, she's just looking to be happy and looking for love. So I loved that they showed that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting and believable story, and yeah, it's good to know that ensemble came together. One of the other hosts spoke to John Chaffin on Saturday as well, and yeah, I mean he spoke very highly of the rest of the cast as well. It seems like it was a very special show.
It really was. Like I'm telling you, we were like fam up in there. Everybody was so supportive of each other, and oh my God, John is awesome. And we just had the best time cracking jokes and like messing around, but then like really supporting each other. I wish I could go back.
Yeah, it's quite a heavy episode in a lot of places, so it doesn't surprise me that there had to be a lot of joking around.
Yes.
Is there anything that I haven't touched on that you wanted to share?
Follow your girl on Instagram at Danielle Larracuente. I'm definitely working out here. You guys are going to see me all over your TV screens. And I'm really making it a point. There's some projects I have coming out. Can't talk about it just yet. But I'm really making it a point, again, to make a difference and not being in a box, man, and really showing the Latina community or Latino community in a better light, that we do all things and we are freaking talented out here, okay? And we need to be casted, okay? All the roles, the lead roles, everything. I'm so excited for where the industry's going. I can't wait to see even next year where I will be or where my community will be. So stay tuned.
Amazing. It has been so much fun talking to you, and I mean that really fun. It's been a really enjoyable experience, so thank you so much for coming on the show. And
thank you. I'm so excited I was invited.
we will all look forward to seeing where your career takes you next.
Thank you so much.
This
was a blast. Thank you.
And we're back. Peter, wow, what do you think about that interview? Isn't she like a cool person, happy and just excited to be in Quantum Leap? And I like her. I really like her.
Yeah, no, a few things, right? Like her energy, you know, she has a really great vibe about her. Matt, you lucky dog. And also, how about this? Like Matt is starting to get really comfortable speaking with the cast too. Like he was really natural in this one. So shout out to you, Matt. But yeah, no, Danielle, she was great. She was like a child actor, took a break and then came back because what was it? She had a son, and she like how can right? She said something like, "How can she tell him to chase his dreams if she doesn't do so herself?" So she came back. But yeah, no, I loved how she didn't really say the words, but you could tell that representation matters to her, you know, and she, you know, she wants to see like people like her in roles like that too. And we will get to it. We haven't really quite teased it, but we also have an interview with Raymond, and he also has some really great things to say. And Allison and I even actually kind of briefly talked about it on Twitter, and that's been picking up some traction. But yeah, this cast, I can't say enough. Even the guest stars, they do so well. Like we don't see Angela a whole lot, but when she's on, like she commands like attention when she's on screen, right? And and Angela and Danielle, like they are completely two different people, because like I don't use the word bubbly a lot, but that's very much Danielle. She was very bubbly, and my only criticism of that interview, it was too short. Where's the rest of it, Matt? You keeping it for yourself?
Right?
Like
it was too short. I want to see the extended version of that. Yeah, but yeah, as soon as I saw that interview, I did compliment Matt. His interviews are getting more conversational now that he's doing more and more, and I thought it was really good. It was just like watching a conversation. So, what do you think of that one?
Absolutely.
Hayden?
Yeah, well, I don't blame her for having a viewing party. I think we should be having Quantum Leap viewing parties as well. It's a bit difficult with the time difference, but I reckon we could make it happen.
We could work something out with time travel.
I'm just liking the fact that it really seems that the environment is very similar to as it had been when filming the original Quantum Leap series as well. Everyone who's doing it seems to be loving their experience. The cast is being very welcoming, and yeah, again, makes for boring podcasting, but we all love hearing it.
I think John mentioned that too, about Deborah being on set and just really carrying the heart of the show forward. And other people have said that so far, that and yeah.
I also just remembered that Raymond was her first on-screen kiss.
Yes, her first on-screen kiss.
What she said that they did it like 7 or 8 times or something like that.
I was like, I should have went into acting, but
you could have been kissing Raymond.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'd be calling you the lucky dog.
I don't know. Raymond's woman next week, so we'll see what happens there. That might be interesting. But the kiss, I really enjoyed the kiss. The one thing I was missed out of the interview was Matt didn't ask her about the kiss, because that was my thing always when I interviewed people who kissed Scott Bakula. I was always like, so what was the kiss like? So, but
when I talk to people about like working with like Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, sometimes I say, how did they smell? You know,
probably pretty nice.
Block.
You know.
It smells like karate and beer.
High karate aftershave, maybe. I don't know. Karate and beer, yeah. Close personal friends with Ralph Macchio and William Zabka right here. Peter Veunnasack. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But
while we're on the subject of Danielle,
how people smell.
Angela.
Okay. Yeah.
She's also a fan of boxing and MMA. Another thing I just remembered. Yeah.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
While we're on the subject though, I think, I mean, it's obvious in this episode, Ben was never going to get it on, but I think...
Are we on that subject?
I wonder if they can actually take the same sort of liberties that they did in the original series and, you know, have Ben be able to...
I don't see why that...
Bed to bed. Well, the thing is, these days we have like the Me Too movement, and there's all the issues about consent, and really Ben would be taking them to bed under false pretenses. They would never actually be able to consent to Ben. So do you actually think they would ever be able to go down that path, as, you know, interesting a dynamic as it would be, considering that his, you know, fiance is the hologram and is going to experience, you know, the betrayal? But do you ever think they would be able to do that, considering all the issues that would come up now, which maybe wouldn't have been, I mean, they were always prevalent, but not so much in the spotlight back in the time they were filming the original series?
That's a really good, that's a really great like observation and everything you just said, Hayden, because Ben is coming from 2022. You know, so
he knows better.
that exactly, you know, so that I would imagine that exists in their world too. So that would be a great question to ask Martin. you know?
I think if Ben met the person after he leaped in, maybe, because then it would be a natural start of a relationship between the two souls of the people, you know. But if he's
so you think it would need to
pretending
be
to be
like a Temptation Eyes situation?
so he wouldn't be pretending to be somebody else really that the other person knew, because that would be taking advantage of him. But if he met him on the leap still, but you know, this week we saw he started to remember he had a girlfriend. Yeah, he remembered being with somebody in his home, maybe. So I think if it gets to a point where Ben remembers he has a girlfriend, this might never come up.
I was listening to the Fates Wide Wheel podcast, and the boys brought up a really good point. They seem to think that Ben's memory, or at least a good chunk of it, will be coming back within the next couple of episodes, because they were saying they believe that since we're seeing this from the point of view of the project and we know everything that's going on, we would need to actually see this progression from the main character before the audience starts thinking that he's stupid. So what are your thoughts? How long do you reckon it's going to take before we start getting big chunks of Ben's memory back?
Peter?
Is big chunks important though? Like just the little things that we've kind of been getting, I don't think you know, kind of like serves a huge purpose for his leaps, but they have helped, you know, or at least kind of added you know, layers to the character of Ben's song, like how I mentioned, where he just realized, oh, like I'm an only child, but was able to still pull the emotions, and maybe this is kind of like what you were saying, Hayden, like the melding of the minds. You know, maybe he's kind of pulling a little bit from Danny, you know, Daniel, you know, like how we saw Sam with Lee Harvey Oswald, you know, in the original series. So I've never thought of that, because even when he mentioned in the previous episode about, now I'm almost mixing up like Raymond's story and Ben's, but Raymond, or Ben remembered that that he was of Korean descent, right? Or am I mixing that up with
No,
Raymond's
I think you're
story?
right. I think you're right.
Okay,
their stories are very similar, though. Yes.
Yeah, but that's the other thing too. Like this is interesting because like you know, Ben's not going to see his own image in the mirror, right? So like I wonder if he even remembers what he looks like.
One thing I noticed in this episode, I know this is a tangent and a non sequitur, but did you notice the shirt that Daryl was wearing? It was a 70s shirt, but did you notice the pattern?
No, I missed it.
At first, I thought it was turkeys, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool, a shirt with turkeys." And I kept watching, peacocks all over his shirt. That cool 70s shirt is full of peacocks, and I was like, "They're streaming on Peacock. That's like an Easter egg. That was pretty cool." I was like, "I got to get that."
I like
shirt.
that.
Yeah, the 70s faction.
Well, this episode really was the fan service episode too, wasn't it? Easter eggs everywhere. So, yeah.
Did you see any? What did you see?
So much. Oh, not so much. Maybe not so much Easter eggs, but just the fact that we do have so many more layers added from the original series, which is helping to build and prop up what we're currently seeing with everything going on with Beth and Janice and all the layers there. Yeah, if anyone was worried about this not being Quantum Leap, I think they really need to watch this episode.
I feel most of the people that I have spoken with that has seen this episode has kind of been saying that like this is the one that feels the most Quantum Leap. I started a little group you know, before the show started, because like I wasn't sure where there might be a community to talk with people. So most of the people in there are like people that I know from the Cobra Kai community that also like the show. And so there's maybe like 14 of us in there, but everyone has kind of been agreeing like this feels the most Quantum Leap, definitely. So we're really excited for the next few episodes here. Kind of take it back to Ben a little bit, kind of different but same between Ben and Sam. There's one moment that I really liked from Ben where instinctually he kind of defends Angela, you know, because Daryl catches her back there kissing, and, you know, he kind of goes at her a little bit, and Ben's like, hey, you know, like he just Like he's not even waiting. He's not like, well, what's going on here? I don't want to step in the middle of this. He immediately reads, this is my girlfriend. That's my brother. My brother should not be speaking to her this way, kind of thing. So I really like that as well.
I like that moment. He's to me, I saw that as like he is a natural ally, and he's always going to speak up when he needs to. Because it was a different time when women were treated differently. But I think he was like, hey, that's not necessary, and he was going to speak up. That's how I read it. And besides it being his girlfriend or his Leapy's girlfriend, I just thought he was just saying, hey, that's not cool.
Yeah. It maybe Ben just doesn't like bullies,
That's true. I don't think he does.
Although something that did differentiate Ben from Sam, I actually don't think that Ben is as empathetic as Sam was, at least prior to leaping. Because we had this sentence that he said, I know I shouldn't care, but I do. Do you think, and this might also explain why he was so willing at the start of the series to actually take that leap, not tell anyone, not take into account Addison's feelings, all that sort of stuff. Do you think maybe this is also a part of Ben's process to actually become more empathetic and give him some character growth?
That's an interesting question, because I feel like he is empathetic. I mean, we talked about that prison scene. That's empathy. Like I don't think he just, I don't think he faked that. Like he pulled that from somewhere.
Yeah, but we've also got to remember that he's got amnesia,
right? And possibly some of Daniel's.
One of those, yeah. And do you think that maybe he was a more selfish person who would second guess actually helping people prior to leaping from things that he's learnt in whatever environment he's been in? Because we all are all products of our own environment. But having lost, all that memory, his more natural state, which would be the more empathetic one, might be coming through.
That'd be interesting, because like just knowing Addison as a soldier and serving her country, like I feel like if he was like that, I don't know if that would just be an interesting like relationship dynamic between the two, because she's like like a hero, so to speak, and for him to be to not really care and be like more business. I don't know, like we haven't seen enough of these characters, their backstory, but that's one of those things that I'm going to kind of put a pin on and keep an eye on going forward with these characters. Yeah,
Michelle would slap you for that. Michelle, who I do the Starbright Project podcast with, another one you've got to get onto, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good people.
Every time we say that, she wants to slap Aaron. Thankfully, I'm a half a
it's
away.
So I don't know who she is. Is that something I should welcome to be slapped by her? Is that a rite of passage?
Yeah. Yes.
There you
yes,
go.
definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
I never got that from Ben's character at all. I always saw him as like the same kind of Boy Scout as Sam Beckett, but I don't know if that's because I brought that baggage with me from the original series and just assumed.
I think you may have.
But so far, I've just seen an empathetic person who's wants to do the right thing. And he's working hard at doing the right thing. It's nonstop for him from leap to leap to leap, and he's got to be right there doing the right thing every time.
And perhaps, Albie, this might be a good segue into Raymond's interview, because he kind of talks about like what the role meant to him as well, and maybe I'll just kind of save my thoughts until the viewers see it.
Right. That's a great idea. Why don't we go to Raymond Lee's interview with the Quantum Leap podcast crew, Allison Pregler, Matt Dale, and Christopher D. Philippus. They got to talk to him while I was hunkering down with no electricity down here in Florida. I missed the interview, and so did my daughter. But luckily, he sent his regards to me and my daughter, and said he's glad we were safe. So he was concerned about us. So that was very nice to hear during all this. So let's go to Raymond's interview now, and we'll come back and talk about it in a little bit.
Hello, Raymond Lee, and welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're really excited too. I mean, the Quantum Leap fan community has been waiting for this for a long time, and we are thrilled to be welcoming a new leaper into the fold. Tell us how you got started in the business and what led to getting the role of Ben.
Yeah, well, my first professional job was a one-liner on How I Met Your Mother, and that was back in 2011, 2010, I think. And before that, I was doing steady commercial gigs, and I pride one thing I do pride myself in my career is that I have not skipped any steps. I've done non-union commercials, I've done college student films, I've done Craigslist movies. I just wanted experience, so I've done everything there is to do, and my progress was very incremental. It was one-liner, two-liner, three-liner, guest star, recurring guest star, and there wasn't any leaps, so to speak. And this is probably the largest step in my professional career because I hadn't been given an opportunity to lead a series, let alone a series that is so beloved and coveted. So when I was approached with this, Martin Jarrow and Meg Pfister, as you know, or might not know, they run Quinn's Production. That's their production company that the show's under. And I had worked with Martin before, and I had done quite a bit of theater, regional theater, some off-Broadway. And Meg Pfister was very active in the theater community. She had been casting in Los Angeles theater for a long time, and she had been familiar with my work. And she emailed me out of the blue. I was out in Marshfield, Massachusetts, working on another show, and she had emailed me out of the blue and also left me a voicemail asking me if I wanted to do this part. And completely caught me by surprise because this isn't something that happens. I earn everything. It's like I said, incremental, and this just seemed so massive. And I definitely took a pause, talked to my manager. My manager was in disbelief. I'd been with her my entire career, and she was like, "Well, it's not for the lead, so let's read the script and see how it goes." And I'm like, "I think it's for the lead. It's here in writing. It's for the lead." And I have her voicemail on my phone. I don't know if I can send this to you, but she's like, "Okay, well, everyone's sleeping right now, so let's just let's see if we can get a hold of the script and let's go from there." So the next morning comes, and my manager was like, "It's definitely for the lead. Okay, let's read the script." Got a hold of the script, and it was fantastic. And I remember the original series, and this felt a lot like it. And as you know, the original pilot has now been repurposed to be a later episode. And I read that episode and I was like, wow, this is strangely very close, feels very close to who I am and the kind of show that I've always wanted to work on and the kind of character that I've always have seen myself playing. And it felt too good to be true. And then I had a conversation with Martin and he thought it'd be a great fit. And we went on from there. And next thing I knew, I was on a flight to Vancouver shooting the pilot, and it was all just crazy. And and here we are now, several months later, going into episode 8. We just finished 2 days of episode 8 so far, and it feels wild and exciting, and haven't lost any excitement.
Amazing. That's amazing. You had mentioned that when you read the script that you jived with a lot of the character. What things about Ben specifically attracted you?
Just the overlapping, just kind of foundationally who they were. They had written Ben to be an immigrant. Even though my mom immigrated, but it was a similar shared experience that I understood. An only child as well, and a son of a single parent. And all of these just lined up. And I was like, okay, well, it seems like they have a strangely strong grasp of who this person seems to be. And given the times too, I thought what an opportunity to show that a person that looks like myself is capable of empathy at a time where not so much empathy might have been shown to us, just given the circumstances. And I also thought, wow, this is a show with so much heart and humor. And this is all I ever wanted to do in terms of, I grew up watching Indiana Jones and Back to the Future, and these were always kind of fish out of water characters. And I was the perpetual fish out of water because I wanted to do so many things with my life. And I loved the idea and the feeling of not knowing how to do something and then slowly seeing, oh, wow, I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better at this. And now I'm actually good at it. It's like, okay, now what else can I pick up? And, I might have gone on a tangent there, but I just felt like this fish out of water story very related very much to who I was and my story. And, sometimes just the words fit, and the person fits, and you don't have to do so much work to get there. And yeah, in hindsight, I can see why Meg and Martin were so confident that I was the person. I sure wasn't. they were. But yeah.
I'm interested. You mentioned a bit about reading the original script and the ties you felt to it. I know at the point that they wrote the script, there were talks about casting an Asian American or Middle Eastern or North African. It was very broad. Have they lent more into your heritage now you've been cast? Is that something that you're starting to feel is coming out?
Yeah. And, and what I love about it is that that's not the end all be all. It just happens to be an aspect of the character. And, that shouldn't be the overruling characteristic of the reasons why he chooses to be the person that he is. It just happens to be that. And so I think the thing that they wanted out of this character was someone who wasn't naturally an American, and they wanted an immigrant story. And those all applied, I suppose.
So far, what we've seen of the show, the first two episodes that we've seen, have been very heavily action-oriented. The original series was a lot about walking a mile in someone else's shoes, and are we going to get to see a little bit more of that as the show progresses, either with relation to Ben's own journey or otherwise?
Yeah, I think what they've chosen to do with this show is it's definitely an accelerated show, and there's going to be much more elements of action, just because that's what they want the show to be. And they're also seem to be leaning into my strengths as an actor and what I'm capable of doing. And I haven't done so much action in the past, but they know that I'm capable of doing it, and it's nice to have that them looking out for my strengths. Yeah, I mean, I would love, and there has been much more development on the backstory of who Ben is, and I think that's just the way that they're choosing to sort of parse out the information, kind of just putting it together episode by episode, because it has to be serialized, and that's the way we can really draw audiences, and I love what they've chosen to do with now establishing the relationship that Ben and Addison had previously had. So now that we can work back to that instead of the original where we just kind of threw the audience into a leap right away. And there was a lot to catch up on, not only the exposition of what had happened before, but the exposition of what is happening currently in San Francisco, an earthquake, and you're a time traveler, and you're here to save this, and you have to do that, and here's Ziggy. It was a lot, but when you establish first that, okay, these are two people that are in love, this is a family that they had back at headquarters, and then now Ben has chosen to do this, and now we have to work back to that. And I think that's just a better way to set it up, easier for the audience to sort of digest, because we're asking a lot. The audience is the mythology is like bam. But yeah, we are going to see much more of Ben's backstory as we just upbringing as we go along.
Great.
It's interesting that you're talking about like learning to play to the strengths that you have, and them discovering what you're capable of. And I know that TV shows, especially in their first season, are always finding their footing. Was there anything in the new Quantum Leap that has evolved, like aspects of Ben's character or the story, that have surprised you as you've gone on the journey?
I'm surprised with every script. We have such a strong writing staff, and we always hear rumblings of what is coming before it comes, right? So we're working on episode 3, and they're like, "Did you hear what episode 8 might be about?" It's like, oh my gosh! So we're always in anticipation of where we're going to be and what time, and I've asked them to withhold certain important key elements of the story from me, because I like being surprised, and I like building my character based on what I have in front of me. Again, I've never been in this position, so it's not something I have anything to base it on, but I'm finding that it's more exciting for me to take this journey as it comes. So I am, once the new scripts come in, I'm like ravenously, oh, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, it's very fun to hear that, like, oh yeah, episode 10, it's going to be about this. No way. Who's writing it? Wow. Who we were thinking of getting as a director? That's crazy. I don't even remember what your question was, but very excited. I got excited.
Well, you're taking the journey like Ben. Ben doesn't know anything going into it.
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
It's, unlike us, we're just like looking for all of the information. Like, what's going on over here?
Yeah. Right. I mean, and I find that it just benefits me to focus on the show. And to be present with what's happening, because really all we can control is what is happening on the days. And we want to make sure we get the scene, we understand the story, and then we get the shot, and then we move on and we complete that episode, and then we go to the next one. But yeah, I as far as leaning into my strengths go, I've had conversations with Martin and the other writers, and they've asked me, what can you do? And being an only child, I know how to do. I am fairly mediocre to good at a lot of things. I am not great at anything. So it's great for the purposes of the show, because, like, have you boxed? Yes, I have, actually, because I was just a bored only child and I just did a lot of boxing. And can you, can you karaoke? Yes, I sing by myself all the time, and it's just I have a lot of random skills, and this seems to be the perfect show to use them all on.
Do you have a favorite leap so far? I mean, we've seen you so far as an undercover cop and as a boxer and as an astronaut. And I think you're going to be a female for the first time in the next episode. And also the cowboy episode and the earthquake episode. I mean, that's a lot. Is there anything standing out specifically as a favorite so far?
Oh my God, they're all my favorite. I swear I've already checked off half of all of the items on the actor's bucket list already. I can't even imagine what's ahead. But I love the boxing episode, and I love that it's coming as it's so close for viewing. I watched like Rocky growing up, and anytime there's any movie that has to do with fighting, at the core of it, it's just like you understand. There's so much that you could wrap in a fighter's story, and it's so there is always a victor and there's always a loser. And you have to deal with the outcomes of that and everything leading up to it. There's so much pressure. And even though you've never fought professionally yourself, you understand that feeling. And so I've always wanted to be in a boxing movie or anything boxing storytelling related. And so when the script landed, it was incredible. And I also feel like this is the episode that we kind of start to find our footing, and we somewhat find our voice. And I think we've done a really incredible job establishing the world and establishing the characters. And now I think we're given license to really start flying. And this episode, our guest cast is phenomenal. I'm just very excited for y'all to watch. And for me personally, that was just it was the most fun because I got to train. I got to actually box, and I got to work with professional fighters, and I got to be in a ring, you know. And the ref is an actual professional boxing ref who was there. And so for me, I'm like, I can't believe this is real life. If my 10-year-old self could see me now, but. Yeah, so far that's been my favorite leap. Not my favorite episode, or they're all my favorites, but that's been my favorite personal leap just for the boxing. And yeah.
Has there been a lot of we know that there was a NASA consultant on set for episode 2. You've just mentioned we had no idea. I don't think that there was so much support for episode 3. Have you had specialists surrounding you the whole way?
Yeah, to some capacity. Yeah. The female bounty hunter episode, no, because I don't know how
professional female bounty hunter.
Yeah, which would have been very cool. Honestly, I would have just on all my lunch breaks, I would have been like, "So, what's it like? What's life?" But yeah, to some capacity, there's always been professionals teaching us to do the professional thing. For the Western, there was most of our cast, actually one actor in particular, and I can't remember his name right now. I think he's been in like 40 Westerns. And so I was just watching him be, and I was like, that's how you do a Western. Okay. And yeah, our writers are so immensely smart that they know so much as well. So that's why they're given the episodes that they're given to write also. But yeah.
It's so exciting. I'm excited for Cowboys. I'm excited for Halloween. It's a great show because you're never bored. You just jump from thing to thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
I want to ask one of the skills that you just mentioned, and you threw it in there and went straight on, but I'm going to make you go back to it. We know you like to sing, and we've spoken to other guest stars who've talked about your singing. The reason has been an earworm all week amongst Quantum Leap fandom. Are we going to hear Ben singing? Are we going to hear more of that? Whether it's the reason or something else? I've got it stuck in my head right now. This is entirely your fault.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that experience. Let me tell you, I have never been more mortified until than the moment after the rehearsal when I was directing the Roots how to play Hoobastank. I mean, one of the greatest hip hop bands ever, and possibly one of the greatest drummers ever, how to play these just major chords on, okay, and this is how I want it, okay? And I'm going to come in here. If I could just get a little guitar there just to lead me in, and then the full, yes, and then Questlove is just there. Yeah, you know, with our eyes closed. And I went back to the dressing room, and I was so mortified that I had done that. But they needed to know what I wanted to do. So, but anyways, yeah, I hope there can be karaoke. Absolutely. Yeah, because I'm not a great singer, but I love singing. And it is definitely the way. If there's just silence, I'm usually humming a tune or we're singing a song like Hoobastank is the reason. But yeah, I hope there can be a karaoke episode.
That'd be terrific because one of the signatures of the original series was that Scott was basically like a jack of all trades. So there were so many episodes where he was dancing. You had your tango in the premiere episode, the pilot, singing a lot. So there's a lot of connective tissue there. That's kind of part of the legacy of the show. But I was wondering, I know that you've been asked this question a million times, and most leapers already know the answer. I know that you didn't see the show when it was first on. You were introduced to it in syndication, right? Right. So, I mean, since getting yourself familiar with the original and getting familiar with Scott and his performance, how does that legacy and Scott's performance as Sam influence your approach to Ben?
That's a great question. And it's something that I've thought about a lot. And, you know, when I first got the part, I immediately started binging it all day. And I found myself trying to emulate Scott's performance, and it wasn't a good fit for the type of show we had. Because the style of acting has changed, the pace of acting has changed, the attention span of viewers have changed. and we don't have we don't have the luxury of really massaging moments, because I every episode was like a feature film, and we're trying to do something similar, but we also have so much more story to jam pack. And so, yeah, I found that very early on that it wasn't going to do me any good to recreate his performance, because also, how do you recreate something so perfect? And so for me, I had to find my own way into it. So watching more episodes for reference wasn't doing me any good. And instead, I'm just watching it as a viewer. And it's also impossible to remember what I saw in sixth grade to try to recreate those memories and how that would correlate with what I'm doing. But yeah, to answer your question, it was something that I had put thought into, but at some point I had to let go of it so I can follow my own path with this new show, and just had to lean in more to who I was.
I think they've done a good job so far of giving you space to sort of react to the leaps. But as you said, it's a much different show. It's a lot more fast paced. And we've been basically doing a lot of 50-50. We have the leap plot, we have the project plot, and we have a lot of intercutting. I think the real connective tissue there is Caitlin as Addison. As the shows go on, you say you kind of find your footing in the boxing episode. Do we just get to breathe a little bit more with Ben and see him more in these situations? Kind of, I know it will never be the same pacing as the original, because as you said, times have moved on, but it'd be nice to see, a bit more immersive in the leaps.
Yeah. And I think we do. I think because in the first two episodes, there's so much to establish, not only headquarters, but all the players in the headquarters, and all the nuanced relationships inside there. And now we find that there is a nefarious character in all of this. And so there's a lot to jam in, and essentially it's the same amount of time that the original had too. So it's aggressively fast that it's been. But yeah, as the episodes progress, there is a little bit of slowing down and breathing. I personally would love more of that as well. But again, we have an ensemble cast. It is just a different show, and I think it's great in terms of expanding the universe that is Quantum Leap. But yeah, and yeah, like you were mentioning, the connective tissue there is Caitlin, and she's working hard, just like on a physical level, because she's working in the headquarters. She's working with me on the leaps, and she's required to deliver a lot of story. Yeah, I am lucky to have someone so capable like Caitlin by my side, not only as Ben, but as Raymond. Ray. I called myself Raymond after asking you to call me Ray. Because she really is who that character is. She is insanely smart, incredibly capable, and yeah, she should have been the leaper, but I don't know. Yeah.
That was an interesting wrinkle. I kicked myself after we spoke to Caitlin, because it just never even occurred to me to ask her how she felt about that aspect of the character. So Caitlin, if you're listening, we'll have you back, and I'm going to ask you that question specifically. But, I was just talking about sort of harkening back to the pacing of the original series, but at heart, I'm like a lore geek, and I love like all the project stuff. And I love that we're spending so much time back at the project, and all of we were talking about connective tissue, all of the connective tissue.
To quiz them, though. Now's the time to quiz them.
So in episode 3, season 1, also a boxing episode. But we've it's okay. We'll go easy on you. We've spoken to Susan Deal, who reprised her role as Beth Calavici, and we found out now that Ben is working with Janice Calavici, and Magic himself was once a Leapy, which I know they're going to be exploring in future episodes. So, I mean, all of this ties to the original series in so many different ways. Can we as Leapers who love all of this stuff expect more callbacks to the original project as time goes on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's incredible is that every writer in that writer's room were immense fans of the original. So as much as we're progressing and expanding the universe, we're still definitely trying our best to honor the original. And we personally love it. The writers love it. As many tie-ins and Easter eggs as we can possibly manage to fit in there, it'll be in there. One thing that's really cool, I think y'all are going to love is there's going to be 3 different handlings in one episode.
We were just waiting for the old school handling to be busted out at some point. It's got to be. Yeah. Susan kind of alluded to that. She didn't say it outright, so no NDAs were broken, Susan. Don't worry. And Caitlin had mentioned that you guys had to work around the fact that you shot with a different hand link in the original pilot, so there is going to be a nod to that. So I'm thinking we can maybe even pinpoint the episode then. Say no more. It's okay.
I don't even know. I might be in so much trouble for saying that, but. Yeah, it was something I noticed that because it's not on the page, but it's in the scene, and I'm like, is anyone else seeing this? So yeah. Sorry if I gave away something I shouldn't have, but I thought that was really cool. So.
Oh, we're just super excited. We're excited about any tidbits.
Yeah. For sure. We're just, now that we know that we're going to be seeing some old school stuff, we just can't wait for Deborah to reprise her role as Ziggy once Ziggy wakes up. Oh, it's going to be so exciting.
I got chills. I didn't know in the pilot episode that Deborah was going to do the voiceover on top. And apparently it was a really last minute addition. But, we fired it up. And my entire body just like all the hairs on the back of my neck rose up because I'm like, oh my God, it's like, this is so perfect. What a beautiful continuation and what a great through line to have. And, Deborah's been so present with us. She's there almost every day on set, even if she can only pop in for 5 to 10 minutes and spread her love. But she really is, with her around, I can feel the energy that was there the first time around, and it allows us to really work at our top potential to know that we have her blessings as we forge forward. So yeah, Deborah, if you're listening, I love you. Thank you so much for being there for us and for sharing your love and for giving us your blessings. Yeah, I got chills when I first heard that. Her voiceover
it was great. Did you watch the premiere with your family?
Yeah, had a little. It was scary because we were shooting that day and it was on at 10, as you know, and we wrapped at 9, and I had invited all my friends over to my in-laws' house, and my mom was there. They were all waiting, and we were just like, I got home, I got changed real fast, and I just went straight there, and all my six closest friends with all their significant others, and my kids were asleep already, but yeah, my mom was there, and my wife was there, and it was great. It was a beautiful celebration of not only myself and my journey in this path as an actor, but a celebration of a beautiful show that means so much, that stands for all the right things, especially at a time where shows like, and no knock on Dahmer or anything like that, but it is a strange celebration of something that perhaps shouldn't be celebrated. But it makes for great television, and makes for great drama and all that. But for me personally, I love stories like this where folks can gather around the TV of all ages and can experience something together, and to me that's very special, especially now being a father of 2 kids and always looking for ways to spend time with them together and watch something with them together. Yeah, it was a great night.
I might just switching track very briefly, and this is something quite specific, but I'm just really interested. We saw early on, when we were desperate for footage and for material, one of the first things that we saw of Ben was what we gather as specially filmed trailers. There was the Joe Montana leap, the heavy metal chick, the Desert Storm. Was that, how early on in production for that was you? Were you still getting a feel for Ben when you were suddenly out there promoting it, or was it a bit further down the line?
No, it was very early on. It was a strange day because we shot all of those in one day. And it really felt like an entire week's worth of work in one day. But it was cool because it was just the leaps, right? And when I saw it all smashed in with the trailer, I was like, wow, our show seems like so much bigger than it was at the time. And I was actually kind of concerned about that because I talked to Martin. I was like, are we at all concerned that our viewers are never gonna see me as Joe Montana? He's like, no, it'll be great. It's just more eyes to the show. And
never say never. Just do the Joe Montana leap next year.
There we go. The female rocker for sure. That one was. I was like, this could be an episode. And a very manageable one, and something I would love to do. But yeah, it was very early on. I was still getting a grasp of who Ben was, and I guess in hindsight, if I were to think about it, we treated it as if it was the first leap each time. So very surprising. It's a lot less like, okay, what is my next leap? It is more so like, where the heck am I? Who am I? Yeah.
Well, speaking to that point and in the weeds, but it seemed like Ben was going to have the catchphrase, "Oh shit." Have we backed away from that? Is that still a possibility? What's going on with the "oh shit"?
I don't know. The origin story with the "oh shit" is very unclear because it's not. It's written on the page in the original. And when I remember the day we shot it in Vancouver, I was strapped onto the space shuttle about to take off, and we tried all different versions. We definitely tried "oh boy" several times, and then we went on to the "oh shits," and then we went on to the "oh shh." So we can't really say the shit. We just can't. So maybe it's just a little. And perhaps maybe for Peacock audiences, maybe shit could live in there. So maybe there'd be a different edit for the Peacocks. But yeah, maybe, "oh shit" seems really appropriate, like, given where he's at. It's crazy that he's not saying more.
I had to get to the bottom of that. That's lingering mystery.
Yeah, right. It's just be a new swear every time, just cut off. You know?
Oh.
Great.
Mother.
So much more plausible than "oh boy."
Yeah.
Yes.
An "oh boy" doesn't cut it every time. Sometimes you're in a situation, it's not an "oh boy" moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know we're joking about that, but "oh boy" was Scott's signature in the series, and it was the hallmark of the series in many ways. When you guys were doing the "oh boys," what made you decide to move on from that?
Mostly because I was directed to say stop and then move on to the "oh shits." But okay. You know, it did feel like in the same vein of wanting to separate myself from what came previously and finding my own voice and my own way into the story and the character. It also just it was kind of an honor to say it, first of all, and secondly, I knew that it wasn't mine, and so collectively, it wasn't something that I said like, I want my own catchphrase. It was more of just like collectively, like it's a new show. We should have new things to say.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
and the "oh shit's" still evocative, so
yeah, it gets the point across.
Well, I mean, you've been generous with your time, and, in the vein of sort of that new stuff to come, are there any aspects of the story in general or the series in general that you'd like to discuss that we haven't touched upon, or any tidbits that you can give us besides the bombshell announcement of 3 handlings in one episode?
Yeah. I'm particularly right now really interested in just Ben's just his endurance, where he finds himself mentally after having done 5, 6, 7 leaps, and now fully knowing that he might not be returning home anytime soon, and learning to grasp with that reality, finding out more and more about who Addison is to him. Here's a guy who doesn't even know what he looks like, let alone who he loves. And so it's been really fun for me to try layering in all of that and see the toll that each of these leaps have taken on him. And it's a great challenge as an actor. It's a great storytelling challenge, and how these leaps, if they do end up affecting him, and is he going to compromise any of his core values because he is compromised? And these are all things I think as a human being we try to do our best, and at times we just can't. And so it's been very interesting for me to see and chart what the writers have been writing, the discussions that we've been having, and I have a little workbook of like, wow, this has happened in this leap. That must have taken something from his soul. This had happened in this leap. That's been particularly interesting for me to chart. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the Halloween episode is going to be so fun. It's just,
I love Halloween.
Yeah. We just wrapped that, and we're all just so giddy because it's like, oh my gosh. Because I think that Monday also falls on Halloween too. If I'm not mistaken, but yeah.
So it does. Fun. Yeah. I read an interview with Martin Garrow where he said it was some sort of take on The Exorcists. I'm like, what in the world could be going on?
Ever. I was legitimately frightened reading the episode, but it's also it's hilarious. But yeah, it's an homage to The Exorcist. But yeah, I'm excited for everything that's to come. Definitely.
So are we.
I know how much the original, and here's the thing too. When I speak with fans of the original, the energy that I get from them is not like this ravenous, like, oh my God, it's coming back. It's like, oh, it's more just a very, they had an experience with the show that really touched them. It was something that they either watched, I had so much of these stories too. It was like, it's a show that I watched with my dad. It's a show that we watched as a family, and they're very thoughtful, very emotionally in touch, very empathetic beings who are extremely smart. And I've been met with so much warmth that it has allowed me to do my job better. And of course, there's going to be negative with any project that's previously loved. There's going to be people who hold it close to them, but the good far outweighs the bad. And I just need to thank the original fan base, and I need to thank you for having me on and for embracing me and for willing to take this journey with me and through my eyes. No, yeah. So thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for just bringing me in and allowing for all this to happen with your blessings. So thank you.
Yeah. We're excited to take the journey with you. We're excited to keep track of Ben's evolution, and we look forward to many episodes to come and many seasons of sharing it with you. Thank you, Ray, so much for being on the Quantum Leap podcast with us.
Wow. We had the star of Quantum Leap, Raymond Lee. He wants us to call him Ray. I still want to call him Raymond Lee, though, because respect, you know. We had him on the podcast, on the QLP. How cool is that? How cool is that he
I'm
came
glad
on,
I'm not wearing pants.
Yeah.
gave us all that time.
It probably wouldn't fit.
He gave us almost an hour of his time. And he was so kind and so giving. And I mean, this guy, I think, of course, you know, the series hinges on him, obviously, because he's the lead, but they picked the right guy for this show.
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If there was anything bigger than 100%, that, you know, that. You guys can call him Ray. You can call him Raymond. I just want to call him, you know.
You can call him Ray, or you can call him Jay. You can call him Ray J.
Just an amazing interview. You know, like I feel there was a lot of concerns in the fandom, you know, just like, well, who's going to be the lead, you know, before the casting call, right? Before they were asking for like a AAPI or a MESA, you know, it's just like, who's this next person going to be? And I feel like everybody wanted like another Boy Scout, and just like hearing his story and hearing him speak, it's just like you can like, people like this still exist. Yeah, clearly, you know, there's someone kind of like a Scott Bakula, you know, and yeah. I don't want to make the comparisons because Raymond is very much himself, right? But just everything that he says, and like I like to Instagram stock, right? Like if you have an account, that's what they're for. They're there for you to look. He plays the guitar. Hello, you know, like, can we have another Imagine scene? He can sing, but he will say he can't sing. But like, dude, you were just singing on Fallon. Like, how is that not, or not singing well? Like, clearly you're confident enough in your own voice to still do it in front of millions of people. And I think the official Twitter account, I think they, a few million views watch him sing. So. Yeah, just incredible, and something that was important to me, and like I didn't expect him to kind of bring it up, but I'd like to quote something that he said. What an opportunity to show that a person that looks like myself is capable of empathy at a time not so much empathy might have been shown to us, you know. And so like that, I felt seen in that moment, and you know, it's just great to have somebody using their platform, and he's the lead of a Quantum Leap show that I often, you know, cite for those that like are not familiar with Quantum Leap. I say that's the most like wholesome show I grew up watching, and I was like in the 5th grade watching that on its live run, and I had to go back and watch the previous seasons in syndication. But I remember being 11 years old and going to class and telling people about these episodes. We're learning about presidents, and I go, "You're not going to believe what happened in the original timeline. Jackie Kennedy also died, but Sam went back to like save her." And they're just like giving me this like, what the hell is he talking about? You know? So like I was that weird kid in class. But it's just, you know, like representation matters, you know, like I kind of mentioned it earlier. And how cool would it be for like my kids to be like, oh, wow, you know, Dad, I'll watch it with you because that guy looks like me. I didn't have a lot of that. And the ones that the characters that looked like me were jokes. You know, we were at the butt of like jokes as like exchange students and stuff like that. And you know, just thinking about, and think about some of the how forward thinking and progressive was the original show, because like you think about the episodes like Temptation Eyes, the Americanization of Sachiko. Machiko, you know, like just think about like some of those, you know, like how Sam was there to like, you know, to help them and to kind of help educate, you know, family members, even in that specific episode, his mother, you know, to educate her about this other culture and accept her, and to you know, I just love how Ben is like, you know, of Korean descent, but it's not so much about his background, it's about who he is. And it's very much like this line that I think about often from the show Lois and Clark. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but there's a part where Clark Kent says that, you know, Clark is who I am, Superman is what I can do, you know. And so like I just love Ben's song, you know. It's just it's refreshing, right? Like we needed this show so much in this time.
Yeah. I don't think I could say anything any better than that either.
Yeah, representation is important. I mean, in all aspects, and I think this show is doing a great job representing so many people that exist in our society that was just ignored for so long. And I think as people discover the show and watch this show, and things aren't like pointed out, they're not hit over the head with anything. These are just people that exist in this world that we love. I think that will open up so many eyes and maybe change people's prejudices a bit, or maybe for younger generations,
or
like
at least
you or
make
I
them
was,
think.
Peter. Yeah, make them think, like Machiko did. Same thing, because I mean, do you want to be associated with the person that embraces somebody who might have differences, but at the same time is the same as you in more ways than not? Or do you want to be associated with that guy that tried to assault Machiko, and put that graffiti on the truck? So, but I think the way they're doing it with this show is just having the people there, and I love the diversity in the cast, and I mean, I fell in love with Raymond right away. I mean, I see myself as him when I'm watching this. I think, like, through his eyes. But it's so awesome that people that haven't had that person that look like them in the lead of a show like this, now they do, and kids growing up will see that and know they can be a leaper. They could be the next leaper if they want to. It's magical. It really is, and I think that has a lot to do with the production team that made Quantum Leap, and I think that's why we needed Quantum Leap to come back. So I'm just excited and happy about all that.
Yeah, and thank you for giving us 2 out of 3 episodes with the top or no shirt Raymond.
Oh no, it was all 3. All 3.
Was it all 3?
Really? The astronaut went to Atlantis?
Did he have
what
a
did
shirt
he lean
off
into
on
at the end?
Oh, the boxer. So yeah, so technically he had a shirt off because he leaped into a boxer at the end of Atlantis.
Okay. I mean, that's all right, Hayden, on a technicality.
Technical knockout. See, I can get a boxing reference into.
Yeah, I definitely want the boxing Funko Pop of him now.
Yeah, I just what amazing episode, and great interviews from the main podcast. So and I, if I'm sure you guys are all trying, but just to hear from like other people too, like Penny, I kind of want to hear her thoughts. The actress who plays Penny. Just so many people to choose from, so many great stories. Love it.
In my opinion, another flawless episode. But I did want to ask. This is something that I posted on some of the Facebook groups, and some people liked what I wrote, and some people tore me a new asshole for it, but I don't care.
We all have them.
Well, that's it.
Opinions.
There's plenty of orifices where shit can come out of from me. I personally didn't find the first 2 episodes all that jarring. But that may just be because I watch a lot of television and I'm used to keeping track of multiple storylines at the same time. So my question is, since the original Quantum Leap series, in its most part, only had one storyline in each episode, unless they were at the project for something, like Killing Time, I really don't think there was ever that much of a B plot in any episode, really. Do you think that dumbed down the Quantum Leap fans a little bit, so that they have more trouble now with trying to keep track of multiple plots at the same time and a serialization?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I feel like so much has changed in the way people tell stories in television in the past 20 plus decades, or 2+ decades rather. And I don't know if it's dumbed down. Like, I feel
maybe that's not the best language to use, but that's just what came to me at the time. But maybe just
I almost feel
made it so that we didn't have to think as hard. Maybe is the best way of explaining.
I don't know.
It.
I feel like
do you think that some of the backlash could just come from the fact that people aren't used to, or people haven't trained themselves to be able to keep track of multiple storylines at the same time?
I'm not sure if it's that because, like I kind of was saying, but I was going a different direction now. But just the fact that storytelling has changed in the last few decades, um, I don't. I feel people should be able to juggle that. I think a lot of the backlash, as you're calling it, I haven't seen a lot of this because I'm more part of another fandom, so that's where most of my eyes are. So my interactions are very seldom in the Quantum Leap fandom. But in my opinion, maybe I mean I have criticisms of the show too, and I kind of echo a lot of what Allison says. But I feel maybe some of these other backlashes is because people had their own expectations of the show, and it's not being met. And that's like the difficulty of like bringing back a property, you know, that's so beloved, and people are so ingrained in the lore of Quantum Leap, and they know Sam Beckett so well, and his family, Tom, you know, Susie, and you know, his dad, John, and all this. We know all these things, and so like when we're not seeing like that what they would consider connective tissue, maybe that's where they're like, well, this show is like too many stories. They're looking for reasons to, you know, not give it its like due diligence. Like they're not really letting it breathe right now. I kind of expected the first season to do a lot of setup, you know, because we have a brand new cast, you know, and I don't know what Sam's role was going to be had Scott decided to come back for the pilot, right? Like I've heard about that. I don't know the details of it. So like they're having to just fire. Like they had to redo a pilot, you know. So there's a lot of going on, and I hope that Martin gets to run the show, you know, given this full season. I think we just need to be a little patient. It's just because we've been waiting for so long for it, you know. I feel like they're setting up for something, and I think it's going to be great. We just got to be a little bit more patient. So I think everyone was just hoping that the pilot was going to be like episode 3. You know, I think that's just what it was. And so like, you know, I felt a little bad. Like I was watching that pilot and I was like, you know, my eyes were wide open, and I'm just like, where's the feels? Where's my Quantum Leap nostalgia? You know, so and then when I heard Allison's criticism, I go, well, thank God I'm not the only one that feels this way. And I'm just like, man, yeah, I am her right now. Like I see all this. In the second episode, I go, okay, all right, it's gotten better. And she says like the same stuff. And I go, okay, I'm still on board, but she's still, you know, she's still kind of more like a slight incline. I'm like, all right, jump up, because I did not like the pilot. I could feel the studio execs fingerprints all over that, you know, unfortunately. But Atlantis, you know, like I feel, and I don't know this. I think this was Martin Garrow's, like, is that right? Martin Garrow, is that his name?
I think so.
The showrunner. Yeah, I feel like this was like this was him. Like, this is what I wanted to make from the show. You know, like that was his vision. So I could be wrong in that, but yeah, kind of interesting. Like I don't know the history as to why they changed showrunners during production.
Yeah, we don't know exactly yet, but I really love the pilot, but the repilot, the second pilot that our first episode aired, but that was more of because we have Quantum Leap back. But it did have major pacing problems just because of all the things they needed to fit into the 45 minutes or so. Atlantis, I really enjoyed, and I really thought that felt more like Quantum Leap, but the A story and the B story were so jarringly different and unconnected that every time we were getting into what was happening in space, then it cut back to the project. And it almost seemed like you're taking me out of the leap to go look at the project. So I unconsciously was resenting the project back at headquarters, but I loved what they were doing, but I kind of resented it because it was taking me out of the leap. I think what they got right in this one was, like you guys were saying earlier, we were more following Addison, and because like she was in the leap, but when she passed out and fell down, when we came back, we were still following Addison. So we didn't have this jarring change between the two situations. We were basically following Addison throughout the whole episode. I think a lot of the setup in this show is, of course, modern day storytelling, but also even Scott said on our show, one of the hardest things for him is he was in every shot of every episode, in every scene, and it was all him, and he had to be there the whole time. And I think to spread it out better and not kill Raymond Lee, like they were almost killing Scott Bakula for being in every shot and every scene in every episode. I think that they set up this structure so it's more spread out and it's just not overwhelming for any one actor. But then when you're looking at it right now, Caitlin Bassett, she's in almost every scene. So I don't know. They have the cutaways here and there with Magic and Jen, but mostly Caitlin Bassett is very hardworking right now. But I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But this one felt like Quantum Leap because I didn't feel taken out of the story at any time during the episode.
Yeah, completely agree. And Albie, I referenced your interview with Scott all the time when people when they say they don't like the headquarters stuff. I go, well, I totally understand why they do this because there's this interview I heard where Scott talks about this, and I feel that's why they created the headquarters, and so I can understand that. But I guess that's not what I'm saying enough, Albie. Like you mentioned the pacing of the pilot. I think that's you hit it, on the nail there. You hit
the nail on the head.
There you go. Got it on the nose. that expression.
That. Actually, Peter, here that means something else.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
If you say something's on the nose, it means it stinks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, look, I too totally understand everyone's criticisms, but maybe it's just because I do watch a lot of TV and I'm also very well read. I like to read every now and then. Not a huge reader, but enough so that I get used to seeing story structure and the fact that, just about every chapter is something different. So I'm a bit more attuned, I guess, to the switching, if that makes sense. So it didn't bother me in the slightest. The pacing in the first one did, but in the second one, just the fact that they did switch between the two, I'm like, well, that's just the way stories progress. So they have to keep track of what's going on, in all places at the same time. So that's kind of the only way it can happen. I just thought it was something interesting, and whether it's a problem that Quantum Leap fans have more so than other fandoms who may be more used to storytelling, which does have to shift perspectives quite a lot more.
Well, isn't that a different form of storytelling? Like when you're reading a book, it's either in the first person or second person, third person, and this series is different from the original because the original was always focused on Sam, and we followed Sam everywhere he went and everything he did. And this is more of a broader storytelling.
You have two options, really. Like if you are not enjoying the show, like you either just be patient for some of the payoffs, because that's good storytelling is payoffs, because they're clearly setting a lot of things up, and it's a brand new show, or you can find another show. Like if you're unhappy, like you don't have to watch this. Like it's unless you're paying for Peacock, and I could see like the frustration. Like I paid for the service, kind of thing. But
I pay for Peacock and it's well worth it just for Quantum Leap alone. So
I have YouTube TV, so it's kind of the same.
There you go. Yeah. But they get my money and they deserve it. They're working hard. Like I said at the beginning, the third episode, I think that they're where they need to be, at least for me. I enjoy the show. I enjoy the pacing of the third episode. I enjoy the project stuff. I really do. I'm intrigued. I want to know what happens next. It's cool to have a bigger mythology. I think ever since Lost happened, that changed television forever, and we need a little bit of that, drawn out storytelling. Maybe Deep Space Nine before that, but it adds to the show. I don't think it takes away from it. So, and I love all the characters. Ian, oh my goodness, that character. Every time Ian's on screen, right? Every time Ian's on screen, I'm like watching. I just love it. Just a little. I think this last time I watched the episode, I watched it with subtitles on and also audio description, which you can do on Peacock. And it was like Ian smirks and saunters off, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I could say that this is my favorite episode so far, but I just watched the next episode, and that's my favorite episode so far. They just keep getting better and better and better.
So you think they've actually got the balance right now?
I think so.
The two well, that's
yeah.
I wonder if they reworked the pilot. Maybe somebody felt like episode 6 was maybe not the weaker one, but like, hey, you know what? It kind of changes, like the momentum, right? Like if you're saying 4 is better, maybe 5 is even better. Maybe 6 didn't quite hit, and they're like, you know what? Let's move that one to the front and we'll bring this one up, kind of thing. That I'd be kind of interested to hear the thoughts.
It'd be weird if the pacing was jarringly different, but it could be because it was the first one shot, so we'll have to see. But I know from reading the original script that all the stuff at the project basically in the repilot was from episode 6, which was going to be episode 1. So that might be another reason it seems so crowded, because they combined 2 episodes. So I think if they continue with the serialized storyline at headquarters, it'll be more of that pacing to go with what they filmed in the earthquake stuff, and I think it'll be okay. I think.
So, well, let's hope. So anyway, my rating for episode 3, The Right Hand of Ben, is obviously 5 out of 5 handlings, because there wasn't a single thing that I didn't like.
Peter, out of 5.
I'm gonna go with 5 out of 5 shoelaces. I have I thought this was a flawless episode. This of the 3 thus far, this is the one I'm going to be rewatching the most. All the emotional beats hit. The comedic stuff was funny, and all the guest stars, they were all fabulous. So. But I wish we could see them again, and I'm sure they would all love to return. Everyone has said that, right, in their interviews. They would love to return, but it's just, unfortunately, it's not necessarily that type of show. We could potentially see them like a mirror image, kind of like that.
Like the Lamadas. You never know.
Yeah, let's
whenever the evil leapers eventually show up.
Right. But yeah, it's.
I'm sure Carolyn Seymour would come back. I'm pretty sure she's always said that she would come back if ever asked. So
as a ghost or the hologram.
As the leap, probably.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, just Janice shimmers out and Carolyn Seymour's there.
Oh, I don't know. I'm getting the chills.
All right, I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5 Tupperwares full of sandwiches. I really enjoyed this one. When I watched it, my favorite episode. Yeah,
5 out of 5 drugged cups of tea.
There you go. 5 out of 5 fainting Beths. Oh, my graphics department. I don't know if they could do that.
What's worse than a faint? Because just, oh my gosh, that was so shocking.
Yeah,
so shocking the way she fell. Oh my gosh.
Luckily, we talked to Susan after that scene was filmed, so we know she's okay. But oh my goodness,
am I good?
Yeah, she looked dead.
She was a sight for sore eyes. She looked great in that second episode.
Yeah, I can't believe that Janice is that mustache twirling villain-ness like she is.
Might be a swerve.
Might be. We'll have to wait and see. Next week, we're going to be talking about A Decent Proposal, where Ben leaps into a female bounty hunter in the 1980s.
Ben's in Los Angeles in 1981 in the body of a woman. Are you surprised?
Do not look at me. You're a bounty hunter. That's your partner, Jake. Ziggy says you're here to save her life.
Come on. Is there anyone that might want to hurt you?
We gotta jump. This is gonna be a hell of a ride.
She dies. Get down! You're stranded here.
What do you think we're going to see next week? This is the first time he's leaping into a woman.
Well, the merging of bodies is going to be very interesting, isn't it?
That will be interesting. I haven't really actually thought about what could possibly happen, but if the preview is any indication, maybe we get to see Ben get physical, with somebody getting too handsy, so that might be interesting to see, because we are starting to learn a little bit about what Ben is capable of doing. We don't know. I mean, we know he can box, but like, does he have any martial arts in him, like Sam Beckett did? So I was kind of thrown when like I kind of suspected that he would know some languages, but the way Addison revealed, it sounded like he knows a lot of different languages, So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's got those swinging kicks and all that stuff too. He can tango. I mean, he thinks he can dance.
Well, maybe part of the code that he uploaded actually might have been a bit of Sam. So maybe he's got some of Sam's skills now too.
Interesting.
You never know. We have great guests next week, great interviews. Our headlining interview, our main get for next week. Can you believe this, guys? Ernie freaking Hudson. We got a Ghostbuster, guys. How did we do this? This is crazy. I'm so excited
Who
to
are you going to call?
speak with him. Hey, Peter, do you have a question for Ernie Hudson?
You know what? I don't, because I'm just a guest host. I appreciate being on here. I don't want to take anybody's thunder and all that stuff. However, I would like to challenge anybody that's on that call with him to not make any Ghostbuster puns.
That's going to be rough. I'm sure he gets it all the time.
That's the thing, right? Like, you would imagine that he gets it all the time, and like
I reckon he'd be disappointed if no one did.
You think so?
I don't know.
Wouldn't you be?
I mean, show us the Winston, right? Like, why is he always being cut out and stuff? But I feel like, I don't know. So like, speaking,
do I wear my Ghostbusters shirt?
Yes,
I think that's completely acceptable.
Okay.
But just from like, from a little experience from the interviews I've done on my side, that's the thing that people often say about my interviews, that they are glad that I don't ask the same things over and over that other people do, so that's just, I'm not trying to give any advice. This is what I do. So I think it might be interesting for him to come on a podcast such as your guys's and be surprised by I didn't get one mention of Ghostbusters. What about Crow? Maybe talk to him about the Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'd like to hear about Ghostbusters.
No, I do too.
I'm sure our listeners would.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult, because I don't know if you know this, but Allison got married in a Ghostbusters dress. So that's how difficult it's going to be.
Well, I already heard some of the there you go.
Get Allison to wear it.
I already heard some of the things that they were joking about on one of those episodes. Actually, I think it was their review as well on episode 3. No, I'm super happy and excited to hear it. But I just say, because I know it's going to be a very difficult thing to do to try avoid mentioning anything about the Ghostbusters.
I've noticed in our interviews with the main cast, Chris has been like almost setting up a question to ask about Scott Bakula, but then it's a different question, and they always look like they're going to cringe when it's about Scott Bakula, but then it's not, so they're relieved. So maybe he'll do that with Ghostbusters. I don't know. But either way, just talking to Ernie Hudson is going to be such an honor. So I'm looking forward to that big time. And
nice.
I'm looking forward to next week's episode, because they just keep getting better and better. And I think this is truly a season 6. They had some growing pains in the first 2 episodes, but first 2 episodes of a series that hasn't been on in 30 years. So I think they're doing well. So I hope people give
seem
it a
to forget
chance
that
and keep
the first season of the original series wasn't all that great either.
Mm-hmm.
I said that. I said the same thing, and I don't love that pilot. I also hate how he leaps into the baseball player just for a few minutes, just to make that phone call to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
I actually do think that part's needed, though.
It is needed. Cry.
Yeah.
But they could have done it in a different way. But I think they were just educating audiences on he's not going to be Tom Stratton the whole series. Yeah. So makes sense. I was disappointed that there was no pilot in the pilot of this one.
I mean, you can go to the well so many times, some things,
Yeah,
we want this fan service stuff, but you don't want to do too many things that are the same.
You don't want to go back into the well too many times. So next week is about a bounty hunter, so that should be interesting.
A Hunting We Will Go.
Hunting We Will Go Part 2. But the boxing episode
we went.
Hunting we go again. A hunting we go again. So it'd be cool if Jane Sibbitt's in it somewhere.
A gathering we go.
A gathering we go. I like that. It's kinder, gentler. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on this episode of Quantum Leap?
None. I just want to thank you guys for having me on this episode.
Thank you for being here. I know
you're welcome back anytime, Peter. You
Absolutely.
floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee where you needed to today. So I think it's been a good dynamic.
That does remind me of Muhammad Ali, who, was drafted to the Army to kind of bring it back to an issue on this episode. Actually, as we close up here, I don't know if you have the number readily available, but if you know somebody that may be showing any signs of what you might think is PTSD, there are phone numbers you can call. That's the phone call is an option, but speaking to them is also an option. If you see some signs, sometimes that's all it takes is just to speak with somebody, trying to find out where their headspace is. So, definitely, if you love the person, try to get them help,
Absolutely. I think this episode might help somebody help someone also. So the lives that Quantum Leap touch might touch others and help them. We'll put that phone number on and the website on the screen over this. So that's very important. If you or someone needs help, definitely get help. I mean, that can make the difference of life or death, literally. So
absolutely,
it's important. It's sad that people suffer from that, but it's good to know that now there is help. All right. For the Quantum Leap podcast, I'm Albie.
I'm Peter.
And I am the hacker who's temporarily taken over Hayden's computer.
And Peter and I will see you next time on Back to the Future, the animated series podcast. See, I said that there, so we got to do it now.
Yeah, otherwise we'd be liars.